Monica, are you able to hear me?
Yes, Commissioner, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yes, yes.
Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Mic check, 1, 2, 3.
Today is Monday, March 2nd, 2026. Before I call our meeting to order, I do want to announce that some committee members, staff, and the public are attending remotely by Zoom, as well as some on site, and all participants joining by phone should mute your phones when you're not speaking to avoid background noise. And when you are speaking, please speak directly into a microphone to ensure everyone listening is able to hear and to ensure a clear record is made. Also, make sure you announce yourself by name and title when you speak so that the public observing knows who's speaking. And this is critical given the number of remote participants. It's also current guidance from our Kansas Attorney General. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to our meeting, and those are included in the record of the meeting. The public can also indicate their intent to provide remote public comment by contacting the clerk's office by noon on the day of the meeting, and also has the opportunity to provide brief comments by phone or Zoom or here in the fifth floor conference room during the meeting. If public comments are allowed on an agenda item, they should be limited to the topic. Disruptive comments and behavior are not permitted and would result in removal from our meeting. And with that, I would call the meeting of Economic Development and Finance Standing Committee for Monday, March 2nd, 2026 to order and ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Roll call. Haley, we have an absence memo. Bradley Lopez,
Present.
Davis, Stites,
Here.
Pacheco.
Here.
Burns,
Here.
Howard,
Here.
Bynum.
Clerk, are there any revisions to our agenda tonight?
There are no revisions tonight.
Thank you. And the first item of business is approval of minutes from the January 13, 2025 meeting. If I could have a motion for approval.
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call on our minutes, please.
Roll call. Bradley Lopez,
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Pacheco.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
The motion carries. Vote is 6-0.
Thank you. We have one item on the agenda tonight. It's a presentation of our 2025 last quarter investment report. And we have multiple people here from Finance and Treasury. So I want to introduce everybody, and then whichever of you is going to make that report is just perfectly fine. On my left, we have our treasurer, Andrea Vineyard. We have our deputy treasurer, Michelle Wooten. We have our deputy CFO, Debbie Johnsher, and our CFO, Dr. Chanelli. Hey, that's a new word. I like that. Dr. Shelley Canubin. And I'm glad to introduce you because we have new commissioners and they may not have met all of you before. So it's very nice to have you here and we welcome you. And I will turn it over to you for staff to present our report.
Andrea Vineyard, Michelle, Andrea Vineyard, Unified Government Treasurer. We thought we would kind of do it a little different than what we've done in the past, just since there are some new commissioners. And traditionally we come forth and kind of go over the policy that's already happened prior to you all coming into office. So we want to give you all just an overview of what the cash management policy is. I won't take up too much of your time. We did provide the full policy in the packet. I hope you all have that to kind of look over as well. Please, any questions you have, we'll be happy to answer. But before we go into the investment report, we figured we'd give you an overview of kind of what it all is before then. This happens at least once a year to me. Maybe twice. Okay, thank you. Just a visual again, this is the cash and investment policy that was adopted just last year for us to follow and adhere to for the next calendar year for 2025 through 2026. Just again, a visual, we want to kind of go through parts of it, some of the important key takeaways that we follow and kind of how we manage our portfolio as a whole. Thank you. We do have a full cash and investment policy that includes many different procedures and responsibilities that we have for managing the UG's funds. It isn't something that we've not been authorized to do for, I mean, I've been in year 12, so it's been very similar for many years, but it's gone quite through a thorough review. Legal is involved as well as many other parties that we'll talk through here in a little bit. But it is reviewed by the full cash management committee first before we even come to you all to have a full approval to make sure that all the stakeholders that are involved with our policy are at the table to make sure that we're not missing any pain points, along with an annual review that's required for submission to the state of Kansas for what's called expanded powers, which I'll also go into here in a little bit. And then again, at the end result is that we come forth to you around the end of the year, each year, to get it officially adopted by our Board of Commission. We also review for anything that would need to be structurally changed, statutorily changed, which we did have a statutory change last year that came into play that we'll go over, and also just establishing the best management of our investment portfolio. Okay. Few takeaways for the policy. First and foremost, what is it? The page 1 of your cash and investment policy will go much further into that, but nonetheless, the policy identifies all the responsibility that we have as the management committee, the cash management committee for our UG funds. That's going to be any fund that is eligible to be invested, which is our idle funds. We don't invest certain active funds such as the overnight repo accounts, which is the cash sitting for all of our enterprise funds. It's a little bit different. Also on page 1, it is again adopted by annual review by the board every year after it's reviewed by our cash management committee, which is a set of staff. Shelley, chief financial officer, is the voting member, along with the clerk, the treasurer. We have one chief counsel, and then we have a group of non-voting members as well, which would be our legislative auditor, the accounting manager, cash manager, who also serves as the deputy, Michelle Wooten today. And then we have a member of our municipal advisor, Baker Tilley, who's also part of our process. So that would be our full cash management committee who we meet quarterly, we go through all of this, and then of course come to you annually for review. A few things that we like to go over, more so of things that we follow when doing investments, because that comes through the treasurer's office. We do all of the investing for the UG through Shelley's leadership, of course, is what's called diversification. More so different pieces of the policy, which you'll find on page 5, in case you want to look through that all, of different things we watch when doing investments, because we want to be very reserved, but we also want to monitor more than just what's the rate of return. There's more than just a rate of return when doing an investment. Things like the default for issuing based on the market price, how many institutions are actively involved in our portfolio. We don't want to just structure it to be one investment institution when we have multiple. Our county, I believe, county between Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, Bonner Springs, and Edwardsville, we do offer to all of their branches as long as they're local. We have 16 active institutions that could be interested in doing business with us. So we want to be very diverse, but not just by yield, but also by institution and what type of instrument they want to put forth as well. So we try to be as diverse and as well. And then the last component is a maturity target. We want to ladder our investments to be more than just every 12 months. We can go out to 4 years, which I'll get to here in a second. That's kind of how we diversify our portfolio. So there's components that are not just one item. We have a multiple different options for diversifying the portfolio. Local emphasis, I kind of alluded to just in the last statement. We, per statute, first have to offer all of our investments to a bank or a financial institution that has a branch in Wyandotte County. We are not allowed to go outside of that unless we do not get the proper rates based on the statute to allow us to do that. And between our process every year, we make sure that we cover all, not just Wyandotte County, but we also get the cities. So Bonner Springs and Edwardsville, those institutions have to choose to, be part of our process. We don't obviously force anyone to do anything with us. They have to accept, and some smaller institutions just don't have the portfolio themselves, but it is offered to all. And we go through an annual certification process. They have to make sure that they follow our policy and procedure. It is given to them before they are allowed to become part of our investment activity. But again, they have to choose to take that opportunity. That's around or on page 11, in case you have questions there. 6, collateral, very important. We want to make sure that the money that we do give out is properly covered and is not just sitting in something that could be volatile and not be managed properly if that institution was to go under. The state statute is now 102% has to be collateralized. Last year it was 105, so we did have to make a change per the statute that changed House Bill 2152. So all institutions now have to keep their collateral for us as a government agent at 102% of the investment. So 100% plus 2% over. That is going to be on page 14 for reference. And something that is probably not seen as much and you may not see for a while, just kind of depends on our investment portfolio, is number 7. We have the opportunity each year through the state of Kansas to file an application for expanded powers. Kansas statute only allows us to do investments for up to 2 years. If we go through the application process and are approved, the Kansas Money Investment Board will give us authority to go out for up to 4 years, which allows us to kind of further ladder that diversification by maturity date to be more than just 2 years. And anything in between 2 years, 2.5 years, wherever we feel that we would want to kind of ladder that approach. We did get confirmation, I believe, just the beginning of January that again, for 2026, the unified government was approved for expanded powers. They go through the full process. They look through our investment procedures and make sure that we're following statute and that we're properly adhering to any procedure that is deemed state statute required, and then give authority or not. I will pause. That was a lot.
One thing I wish you to go over again quickly, the funds that can't be invested, if you would talk a little bit more.
Sure. Yep. Let me make sure I know the page in case. Sorry, Andrew Vineyard, Unified Government Treasurer. Okay. For the policy itself, for reference, it's on page 8. The section is 13, which is going to be for depositories for active funds against idle funds. We are in section C is what I was referring to. Idle funds are going to be the funds that are eligible to be invested. The active funds are going to be things such as, let's see if it lists them in there. I don't see a list specifically. Got it listed in my apologies.
It's, Melissa Bynum at large one. I heard you say enterprise funds as an example, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, Shelley can kind of go a little further into it, but parts of our portfolio as presented are not something that we invest in. Our overnight repo is in itself an investment. It gets a daily coupon rate or investment rate from our bank. That is the cash that's sitting that is essentially for our enterprise funds. And then the authorized investments that we do, if you keep going on page 10, is called the authorized investments for idle funds, which are for purposes collected that we are eligible to invest in. Such things as a temp note. Sorry, go ahead. I thought I saw your hand, Shelley.
So it's not an actual number or fund name, but we do an analysis based on cash flow. And what we don't want to do is not have enough cash in the bank or tied up in investments in order to pay our bills. So we do an analysis as to how much of our total cash we have available to be invested. And then as part of the quarterly report you get, that'll be on at the end of March, there's information about the bank balances, the amount that we do have invested, and it just kind of goes through that. And we're constantly evaluating, how much cash on hand do we have? Because we want to make sure that we have enough money, in particular, because we're also the tax collector for all the jurisdictions. And so we have to do the distributions. So there are times, and you'll see in this updated, there's a couple new charts that'll show you that in terms of the laddering that we have available. as well as and that's of the investments to kind of spread those out. And then also the types of investments that we have, and then the tax distributions, and then our cash balances and how it fluctuates through the quarters. All of that is included in the quarterly report. And we're going to try and make sure that we have these reports in sync so that you're getting kind of a full financial position when you get these reports. We typically try to hit that same meeting. So you don't have quite all the information, but idle funds are basically those that are not invested and then based on a professional judgment are not needed immediately and that we can invest for 12 or 24, or like Andrea said, the state authorizes us to go all the way up to 4 years, which when you may or may not have institutions in any way willing to do that. But during COVID, there was some institutions willing to do that, and it was a very low interest rate because they're taking on a lot of risk to tie up and they have to collateralize our investment. So it was a low interest rate. So we did have some of those, but they just retired and we reinvested in shorter term. So we're really hitting that 1 year to 2 year investment window.
Thank you. Other questions on Andrea's part of the presentation? Okay, we'll keep going.
I am now going to hand it over to Michelle.
Good afternoon, Michelle Wooten, Deputy Treasurer Cash Manager. And I will be presenting the quarter 4 2025 investment report. As Andrea spoke, we'll be bringing this to you quarterly to give information of how we did the previous quarter. Okay. So a few things I will point out during our investment report is here on the first page of the investment report. A few things we'll point out is the key metrics. Average yield for quarter 4 was 2.89%. We were down days to maturity, 180 days, down from 198 days to maturity during quarter 3. And our portfolio components are cash, which is at 58% during quarter 4, and invested was at 42% during quarter 4.
One thing to add, because you only see this quarterly, but the T-bills, which the overnight rate is tied to, have actually gone back up to between 3% and 4%. So we should see that number go up. I know that in the past, it's something the committee had looked at, and this is low, but it's governed by the federal rates, and then it's tied to that. So fortunately, those have gone up a little bit, and so hopefully we'll see a little better.
Here, our average yield, 2.89%, down from 3.06% in quarter 3, and below our target T-bill benchmark of 3.48. And the total interest that we earned for quarter 4 was 1.9 million. I'd like to point out for the year, our interest was at 7.9 million, so. The types of securities in our investment portfolio, of the 304 million total, 55 million or 18% of that is CDs, and it was fully collateralized per the investment policy and state statute, and 74 million or 24% of that is in U.S. agency securities. We also like to report on what transactions occurred during that previous quarter. During the previous quarter, we did have 4 maturities. As those mature, you'll see that we did go out and reinvest during the month of December. So those 4 maturities there, I do want to point out is that a little bit of a correction that we would like to make is that those were CDs that were during COVID. If you look at the interest rates, we want to provide an update there. The interest rate on those 4 CDs were all 1.120%, all during COVID, which have now fallen off. And so our investments are getting much better rates than they did at that time. So these were the end of our COVID investments. And that's the end of our presentation. Is there any questions?
Questions from committee? Commissioner Pacheco?
Thank you, Pacheco, District 5, for Ms. Wooten or for anybody really. Is there any, like with the expanded investment authority or however it's worded, is there anything that is available that we intentionally kind of don't dip into when is there anything like off limits or anything like that that we don't mess with?
Shelley Kneven, CFO. So no, it's very limited. It basically, the state statute governs the types of investment that we can do, which is basically government agencies, T-bills, certificates of deposit. And then we have our overnight rate. We can't invest in like private equity. So we do invest in all of those. Every time we have something mature and we've decided based on our cash that we want to reinvest, we will do a bid. And we do a bid to all the agencies, all the banks and institutions that have been certified. And they can then bid all the different kinds we're able to invest in. And then we bid also, they can do 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year. Expanded authority just gives you up to 4 years. You're automatically able to do the up to 2 years under state statute. But if you want to be able to have the flexibility to go longer, you have to get the approval. But the types of investments don't change. It's just the term. And we take the best of whatever's bid.
Commissioner Davis?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for the presentation. Ooh, this is a little loud. I have a question, probably not as related to this, but this is just out of curiosity. Do we, by any chance, have the banks that we deposit our funds to give us some sort of report on like their activity in Wyandotte County? Whether they are making loans out or mortgages or things of that nature? Do we go back to Commerce and UMB and say, hey, you know, who are you doing business with in Wyandotte County, right? Who are you helping own a home? Who are you helping get access to capital? You know, with us being a aggressively redlined community, those things become very important. And again, I'm not as familiar with state statute on this, but I would love for us to have some sort of report out on who's giving back to our community, particularly when it comes to taking those financial investments and risk.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Shelley Kneven, CFO. So what state statute requires is they have to have a physical presence or be a broker that's in our community. And so it's already trying to, through state statute, support those local banks. And so that's part of it. But to your point of if we ask those individual companies that we have investments with, how do they reinvest? We don't currently. We could certainly ask for an update on that. And if that's something the committee's interested in, we could even ask, you know, really the biggest account is our cash accounts, UMB. So it's not really invested funds. You've got an overnight rate, but you might want to know what are they doing in Wyandotte County, and we could kind of work through the list of different entities that we invest with as well. We could do that.
Yeah, and just one more thing, and I'd be particularly interested in kind of small businesses and folks. I mean, not to say anything against kind of our larger corporate folks, but really just the mom and pop shops and kind of the individuals and folks that are trying to kind of expand, but may not have as much access to capital. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that question as well. And I wonder if in the next report, which would be first quarter 26, if they'd be willing to just share a couple of bullet points or sentences with us that could be included as you bring forward first quarter report would be great.
Absolutely. So Commissioner, we will bring forward the equivalent of this for all of our financials for the fourth quarter of 25, kind of year end, which always runs about a month later than normal because we have to close the books. And we want to take it as close to audit as we can. There'll be some slight changes, but we want a good, so that we can look at, if you remember, it looks at the general funds, it looks at all of our big funds, and we want good fund balances for you all. So that'll be on the 30th. And then we won't have closed the first quarter in time for, well, there's no meeting in April. So because it's on the 30th. So we'll bring that first quarter of 26 in May.
Okay.
And we can ask for some representatives to provide us at least some written material And then depending on what's on the agenda, we'll visit with you if you want them to do any kind of presentation.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Commissioner, I'll just jump in. Alan House, Assistant
Yes.
Administrator. So banks under the Community Reinvestment Act are evaluated by the Office of the Comptroller and the banking regulatory system, and they look at things like the investments they're making in communities, and they get rated either, kind of good, bad, or ugly, based on how much of those investments. So it may be that we could also just kind of go and look or ask them
Mhm.
for those reports
Mhm.
and use that as a starting place to see, okay, what kind of investments are they making in Wyandotte County?
Yeah, and that'd be helpful too. The question would be, are those reports current or are they always lagging behind? I don't
I'm not
know.
sure how far they
Yeah.
lag.
So a combination would be great. Let them tell us, but also, as you say, look at the report as well.
I know banks do sometimes come and say they get credit for doing more business here, and
Mhm.
they're trying to merge, merge with other banks, get other banks. They actually have to get those credits. So we've had some conversations about how banks could actually use that the CRA funds that they have access to support activity in KCK.
Okay. Commissioner Davis.
Love where this conversation is going. And I think even going on to that, for our community to know, we are taking their tax dollars seriously. And we took that, right, your tax dollars, we invested it, right, we put it back in the bank, and then that dollar or 75 cents came back to our community in the form of a mortgage or in the form of a loan or in the form of some sort of financial tool. Some of this stuff is very esoteric. You all do a great job of explaining it. But for us to take that information and then kind of break it down for our community to see where we're at and where we can make some improvements, particularly in the knowledge gap and making sure that folks know how to access capital, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, any other items regarding this particular agenda item? Commissioner Burns and then BPU member Lopez.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns, Second District. I was just wondering concerning the question that Commissioner Davis had, and this is probably for legal counsel. Could we require those financial institutions to give us that information? I'm
I think
just curious.
Wendy Green, Deputy Chief Counsel. It would depend on what the statutes say as to who we are required to invest with, and also what our bidding process was. We may not be able to require that. We may have to, if the state statutes say we have to use a local bank, and this is the requirements of who we can bid or who we can invest with, that may not be able to enter the equation at all. So it just depends on the state statute and what we can do. I would have to look at that without knowing what that statute says. I'm not sure. It would just depend on what the state statutes say as to who we can invest with. I knew, like Dr. Knieven said, it does have to be a bank located within Wyandotte County. Now, if it says anything further than that, I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with that statute, so I would have to look at it to see, but it may or may not. I'm not sure. But if I'm sure it says something specific as to the requirements. But if that's not included, that might be something that we can look at. But if it specifically says you have to look at these things, and that's not one of them, then no, we may not be able to look at that at all.
BPU member Lopez.
Oh, I was just going to respond as well. Yes, we need to look at the statute. I don't believe we can require them under statute to provide it. I don't think we'll have an issue getting it. We just haven't asked. And so I do think they'll be cooperative. However, we are looking at putting our banking services in general for our operating account out to bid this year. And in that document, which is where the majority of the money is, we might be able to make some requirements in terms of at least reporting. I think we're very limited on what we can require they do for investments. We can't get into their risk management portfolio, but we can get the information. So that's something we can look at as we move forward with that.
Thank you. Go ahead.
BPU Board Member Gary Bradley Lopez. I I want to go back to when Ms. Vineyard was talking about the diversification. And she stated that 18 banks or 18 institutions wanted to do business with us. My question specifically is there a specific amount of institutions that we are supposed to work with under the statutes? And what is holding us back from working with some of these institutions at this point?
Andrew Vineyard, Unified Government Treasurer. Great question. No, to answer the first part of that, we are not required to have a certain amount of institutions active for us. We've had years where it's been 4. We've had years where we've had our highest, where 12 out of 16 may annually certify. We go on site, boots on the ground. I come visit you. I meet with you. When I know someone's changed, I go to a new bank. We had a new bank come in downtown by KU Central Bank. It gets the hiccup we have is just getting participation if I can't get a hold of someone who has the investment portfolio in their department. So we do all that we literally can, but we're only limited to how we can get into the local branch, and they're usually not the ones doing investments. And that's the problem that I usually have. But there is no required number. We just can't get a hold of the people that actually do the investing sometimes.
How many are we working with right now?
I believe we got 4 banks and 2 brokers for 2026.
Thank you.
Good questions. Anything else from the committee or the staff? Okay. That was an information only item, and it was the only item on our Economic Development and Finance Committee for the evening. So that will conclude our meeting. If I could have a motion to adjourn ED&F.
Davis, so moved.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Bradley Lopez,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Pacheco.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
The vote is 7-0, motion carries.
Thank you so very much to all, and our meeting's adjourned, and we will have Neighborhood and Community Development next. Some of you have to stay. Some of you can go. And I'll turn it over to Commissioner Davis to chair Neighborhood and Community Development.
Thank you. Let's get started in about 3 minutes just for us to transition, and then we'll get going. Thank you. All right. Just waiting for the go ahead and we'll go ahead and get started. Okay. This is Commissioner Andrew Davis, District 8. Before I call this meeting to order, I want to announce that some committee members, staff, and the public are attending remotely via Zoom as well as on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. When speaking, please speak directly into a microphone to ensure everyone listening is able to hear your comments and to ensure a clear record is made. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time that you speak so that the public that is observing knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and its current guidance of the Kansas Attorney General. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of this meeting. The public may also indicate their intent to provide a remote public comment by contacting the clerk's office by noon on the day of the meeting. The public also will have an opportunity to provide brief comments either by telephone or via Zoom from the 5th floor conference room of the municipal office building. If public comments are allowed during or on an agenda item, comments should be limited to the topic of that item. Disruptive comments and behavior are not permitted and may result in removal from the meeting. I will now call the Neighborhood and Community Development Standing Committee for March 2nd, 2026 to order. Clerk, can we have the roll call?
Roll call. Stites,
Here.
Pacheco.
Here.
Howard,
Here.
Bynum, Davis.
Here. Thank you so much. We'll hold if there's any revisions for the land bank stuff, but clerk, beyond that, were there any revisions to the agenda?
There are no revisions.
Okay, our first order of business is the approval of minutes from January 13th and February 3rd, 2025. Is there a motion or any comments for
I
this
move
item?
to approve minutes from January 13 and February 3, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, with a second from Commissioner Pacheco. Clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call. Stites,
Aye.
Pacheco.
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Vote is 5-0. Motion carries.
All right. Committee, the two items that we have will be kind of part of a ongoing effort just to keep us abreast of all of the amazing work our staff is doing, how dollars are being spent, and just what programs the community should be aware of. And so community development and parks are up first, just to talk about what's currently happening in their departments and things that they want us to know. And so I see Director Sharp is here. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll hand it off to, well, Mr. Howes, if there's anything you would like to say. Okay, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Director Sharp. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Kay Sharp, Community Development. I appreciate the opportunity to provide a snapshot of community development activities, especially since we have some new members. The activities in community development are predicated on two things. The 5-year consolidated plan. We are in year 4 of the FY 22-26 consolidated plan. HUD works a year behind, so we're just starting 25 now, as well as the annual action plan. So I'm going to focus really tonight on our current annual action plan. So the FY 25 action plan activities represent the activities that are, the priorities that are outlined in the 5-year plan. HUD entitlements are allocated for the fiscal year beginning October 1. However, funding is not released until the Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, called CAPER, is submitted on December 31. So HUD has to, they approve that plan, and then after that plan is approved, they will release the funds. So FY '25 funds became available the end of January of this year. So the work of the Department of Community Development stems from our 3 HUD programs. The first is our Community Development Block Grant Program, CDBG. For '25, it was funded at $2,132,228. Our Home Investment Partnership Program, also called HOME, was funded at $695,189.98. I was very happy about the 98 cents. So the Emergency Solutions Grant Program was funded at $194,076. So I'm going to begin with an overview of CDBG. So all activities that are undertaken with CDBG funds must meet one of 3 national objectives: to either benefit low to moderate income persons, to address slum and blight in a community, or to respond to an urgent need, and that's usually after a natural disaster. I really can't talk very much about CDBG funds without talking about public services. The major challenge in preparing both the 5-year plan and the annual action plan is the limitation of funding that we can allocate to this particular category. And this is really a very broad category. HUD funding limits public services to no more than 15% of the CDBG entitlement each program year. For FY '25, the total amount funded for public services activities may not exceed $319,834.20. However, the activities that we've outlined in FY '25 include the Willigill Center at $316,000, the cold weather shelter at $250,000. And then we still have livable neighborhoods budgeted at $20,000. So that's a total of $586,000. So as you can see, we are considerably above that 15% cap. So in order to achieve the cap, community development is working with one of our CHODOs, Mount Carmel Redevelopment Corporation, to create a new entity that is allowed under CDBG, and that is called a community-based development organization. We do not currently have any registered CBDOs. I went back to look about 10 years and I can't see that we've ever had one. So this will be a new project for us. Activities under CBDOs are exempt from the 15% cap. So this would eliminate Willigill from the public services category, thereby eliminating that $316,000 from our current public services expenditure. So that's how we are working to solve that issue. I want to pause here and note the difference between public services and public facilities and improvements. Public facilities and improvements refer to such activities as parks, playgrounds, community centers, infrastructure improvements, sidewalks, pools, and more. Unlike public services, there is no HUD mandated limit on public facilities and improvements. Theoretically, we can spend as much as we would like to. However, we always have to hearken back to our 5-year plan and our annual action plan. So the 5-year plan that we're in right now, 22 to 26, it provides for a maximum of $2,500,000 to be spent on public facilities and improvements, or $450,000 a year. Spending in this or any category that's outlined in the plan cannot exceed 20% of the stated amount. So the maximum that we can spend on our 5-year plan for public facilities and improvements is $2,700,000. But total funding for public services thus far has already topped $4 million. So if you all remember, last year, we had to do a substantial amendment to raise that amount, even though to change the 5-year plan to allow for the 4 million plus that we had already spent. So HUD did allow us to do that, but we cannot spend any more money on this category and public facilities and improvements. Now, in addition to public services, activities in our annual action plan are special economic development activities. We funded that category at $1,020,228. Now, there in this special economic development category, we have subcategories, and we are undertaking activities to include micro enterprise assistance, childcare expansion, facade improvement, job creation, as well as direct financial assistance to for-profit businesses. And we are focusing on the mom and pop businesses. Another activity that we have outlined in our plan is the elimination of slum and blight. We've allocated $100,000 to this activity. We are looking at two projects right now. One is the Waste to Art program, and we are working with various artists in the metropolitan area to draft some ideas for using the waste products, the large item waste products, which would be tires, appliances, and bed springs. So we're looking at some programs that they are working on to turn those items into art. And then the other item that we're looking at is a comprehensive slum and blight campaign. So we're working with the various departments, the police, waste management, and any department that would touch that issue. And we are going to be putting out an RFP to have a marketing firm actually draft a comprehensive plan. We've never really undertaken that before. You know, from time to time, we would have a newsletter article or something like that. The police might do something. We might have, periodic neighborhood cleanups, but we don't have a comprehensive plan to address this wholesale. So that's what we're looking at using part of that $100,000 for. And then, of course, we have administrative costs. We cannot exceed our cap, which is 20% of our CDB entitlement on administrative activities. And so for FY25, that's $426,000. The emergency home repair program, which historically has been an activity under CDBG, has moved. So we eliminated it under CDBG and we've moved it to home. And the reason we did that is we wanted to make more room for CDBG activities that I've already outlined. So we had about $675,000 that went to home repair in FY24. So by moving that amount out of CDBG, that's allowed us to do some of these other activities that I've outlined. So that takes us to the home program. So home program funds fund activities related to acquisition, rehabilitation, demolition, or construction of homes and multifamily housing. Home program funds must be expended within 8 years of allocation. The current balance of the home program is approximately $2,295,511.40. A minimum of our annual home entitlement a minimum of 15% must be spent on community housing development organizations. They're called CHODOs. Community development currently subsidize 3 CHODOs, Build YCO, formerly known as CHWC, Habitat for Humanity, KC, and Mount Carmel Redevelopment Corporation. I want to add, although Mount Carmel Redevelopment Corporation is a CHODO, HUD does allow them to also function as a CBDO. So that's why we are pursuing that with them. Prior to FY25, the majority of home funds were set aside for CHODO activities only. Previously, each CHODO new home project received $190,000 in home funds. However, collectively, our CHODOs typically produced a total of 7 to 10 homes per year. So over time, we accumulated these funds in home because our activities were too limited. So in an effort to drastically reduce that accumulation of funds, 3 changes were undertaken. First, as I alluded to, emergency home repair was eliminated from CDBG and moved to home repair and code remediation. I want to speak on that for just a moment. The great thing about this is under CDBG, you can only do emergency home repair. Under home, you can do a lot more activities, and I'll get into that. So CHODO subsidy funding was reduced to just the required minimum of 15%. So for FY25, that's approximately $104,300, which it's just over the minimum set aside. So the 3 CHODOs that we have will have to divide that 3 ways. That $104,000 will go to CHODOs only. So a developer program was also drafted in the 4th quarter of last year. That program provides a base subsidy for each new home built and sold to a low to moderate income home buyer. This subsidy is available for for-profit, nonprofit, as well as our CHODOs as well. So the CHODOs still have the opportunity to gain more funding. In addition to the low to moderate income home buyer requirement, developers are required to include features in the new homes that increase safety, consider aging or physically challenged occupants, provide for home maintenance, as well as energy conservation. And some of those requirements include a minimum of 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, electric power, a garage or a closed storage unit, a front or side porch, at least 1 bedroom with a full bath on the main level, as well as an audio-visual system, for instance, a Ring system, and a basic lawn care package. We can use funds under home to subsidize that. And the reason we want to do that is a lot of times that when you're dealing with low to moderate income buyers, they're kind of getting in by the skin of their teeth, right? They don't have a lot of extra money. So we want to make sure that these new homes are maintained. So that's why we are requiring the developers, they have to provide a lawnmower, they have to provide a weed eater and some of those other home maintenance items so that the homeowner can get started off on the right foot. So the department is currently in various stages of engagement with 9 developers, including Fairlane, Sutton Homes, LMK Development, Pure Design, and then the Gwen Group and others. Now, although these funds have been encumbered, the majority have not been expended yet due to seasonal building limitations. In addition, funding will be provided near the end of the construction process rather than at the beginning as was done before. This encourages a faster pace of building and ensures that the finished home is built to program specifications. So we will be able to go in and look at these homes and check to make sure that they have the items that we want them to have in there before we will release those funds. So I briefly mentioned the home repair and code remediation. So there are two benefits to that. One is it's helping us spend down home funds, but unlike CDBG mandates that require very limited activity in a home service with these funds must be brought into full code compliance. So even though someone may apply for a roof, we have to go out and inspect it. If their electrical panel is outdated, we have to replace it. The requirement is anything that we look at that appears to have a lifespan less than 5 years has to be replaced. So this giving us the opportunity to do more when we go out to a home. That's one of the challenges that our inspectors out in the field have always had, because they may get an application for a roof, but they go out there and they can see the plumbing's in horrible shape. But they can't do that. They could not do that under CDBG, but now they'll be able to do that under home. So the third program that is administered in community development is the Emergency Solutions Grant Program, known as ESG. This program provides assistance to low to moderate income persons who are in housing crisis. Activities within this program include street outreach, emergency shelter, homeless prevention, rapid rehousing, and participation in the Homeless Management Information System, known as HMIS. These activities are undertaken through subrecipient partnerships with 8 agencies. And I want to pause and give our program manager, Maria White, credit, because we went from 4 agencies to 8 agencies this year. So we want to make sure that we're reaching organizations who've just been in the business, but have never been able to access these funds. So they are Avenue of Life, Avance, Catholic Charities, Crosslines, Friends of Yates, Our Spot KC, Sue Safe Haven, and the Village Initiative. So I appreciate the opportunity to provide insight into community development activities. And in the coming months, I'm going to pause here because before, when I was talking about our public services and public facilities activities, particularly the public facilities activities, we were very bound by a 5-year plan that probably did not take into consideration a lot of the needs that we had in the community. So as we start the process of looking at our 27 to 31 5-year plan, this will be a great opportunity for us to look at all those things in the community and think bigger than we have thought before. And as long as those items end up in our 5-year plan, we can move forward with them. Again, assuming they meet one of those 3 national objectives. So I'm really excited about the next 5-year plan process coming up. So I will be leaning on commissioners to get your folks out to these listening sessions. And I think we can do a lot to move the community forward. So any questions?
Thank you so much, Director Sharp. That was a great update. And there's a packet here that you have given us with all this information. If you can get that over to the clerk's office so that we can put these in the minutes and make sure that folks are able to review these great notes, that would be greatly appreciated. Committee, I'm going to do public comment first, and then we'll go ahead and have a discussion. Clerk, did anybody, were there any written comments for this item?
No comments were received.
Any hands raised online?
There are no hands raised online.
Okay. For the folks that are here in person, would anybody like to speak to this item? Okay, no one has stepped forward. I'll go ahead and close the public comment period. I'm sure folks may have some questions. I know we have a majority pretty new committee, and so I wanted to make sure you all had access to this pretty early on. It is very different from some of the other work that we do because, quite frankly, this is the most kind of direct federal allocation of dollars that we get that really, really makes a difference. So any questions you all have? Yes, Commissioner Biden.
Thank you, Chair. Curious if you can tell us roughly, Kay, the parameters for qualifying in the home repair program.
Yes, you have to be, the home that you want to repair, of course, you have to be the owner of record. So that's the first thing that we check. You have to be current on your property taxes, or you have to be in a repayment plan that and you have been active in that plan for at least 6 months. There is also the income requirement, and I put that in the packet as well. So you cannot exceed 80% of the area median income. One thing that I did do for this year and going forward, I've changed the policy. So instead of just going with gross income, we are now working with adjusted gross income. So that raises that cap a little bit more, and will capture some folks that before were just outside the qualifications. So really, those are the only requirements that HUD has. You have to be the homeowner, you have to be current on your taxes, you have to stay within that 80% income. And obviously, you do have to provide a lot of documentation showing that what your income is. Obviously, you have to be a resident of the state of Kansas. You have to live in Kansas City, Kansas. So the requirements are really, they're not very stringent at all.
And is there any rule about I can't own more than the home I'm living in?
That is correct. Yes, you can only own one property.
Thank you.
Thank you. And for that particular program, is there a particular number or budget for the home repairs this year?
Yes, we have budgeted 500,000 for that program. We probably are not going to serve as many people as we have in the past, but we're going to leave homes in much better condition than we have in the past.
Gotcha. So more of a kind of go deeper, right? Fix all the issues in the home. Don't just fix the roof and then my water heater's out and say, okay, well, you got a good roof. But fix all of the issues so that they can be in full compliance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Other questions? Yes, Commissioner Pacheco.
Thank you, Commissioner Pacheco, District 5. If you could walk me through, because I'm green on this, how do people access, how do they say, hey, I want to do this? And then who do they go to?
You mean the home repair program? Yes. All you have to do is call community development. We're going to be updating our website to reflect that, but it is simply a phone call. And that's really how everything comes in. Somebody calls and says, my roof is leaking, or, back in the last week of January, we had people call and say, my furnace isn't working, it's 5 degrees outside. In those situations, those are considered emergency need. So in those situations, we don't have to do the entire remediation. That's something that we can go back and look at later. But in those situations, we just want to get the house warm, or we want to get the pipes fixed, or whatever that need is.
And then, maybe I might have missed the numbers perhaps, but how much unused money is there from something like that? Do we kind of use it all up, or is there not enough people taking advantage of it? could we get better at that, you know,
Well,
opportunity?
we have not had unused money in the repair program.
Very good.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Pacheco. And Director Sharp, I'm looking at the website here. I know there's still some ongoing work that needs to be done. And so if there's any support, Mr. House, we can give to community development, just to get the website updated, because there are some programs that you're talking about here that just aren't reflected on the UG website. And so would love for that support to be there. The home repair program is on here, which is great. And is Julie still the person?
Program coordinator, yes.
Okay, so that information is
That
still-
is correct.
Okay, okay, great. So we can direct. Do you all do any like stormwater fence repair, like on the property, but not like the actual home itself? Do you all do any of that work?
We cannot under home. Regulation says that the repair has to touch the home. So we could do a porch, we could even do stairs, we could even do the sidewalk as long as the sidewalk touches the stairs that touch the porch. But no, we cannot do fences.
Gotcha. Okay. I have some other questions, committee, but I don't know if there are other questions. Okay, yeah, Commissioner Pacheco.
And what qualifies for moderate income?
Those are listed here, and I should have read that. I'm sorry.
It says it right here. I'm sorry.
No, but just for public knowledge. So that 80% cap for a single person, that is someone who has an adjusted gross income of no more than $66,550. For a two-person household, that's $76,050. A three-person household is $85,550. A four-person household is $95,050. And it does go up. It goes with, we have numbers up to, I think, a household of 10, so.
Do we have any idea how many individuals or families in Wyandotte County? I'm trying to say this. What portion of the pie of folks who live in our county would meet these income levels? Any idea?
I know it's at least 51% because we wouldn't qualify as a entitlement community, but depending on, I have broken everything out by census group and block. So block by block, we have some blocks, they're at 92 and 93%. We have some blocks that are right at the 51%. Anything lower than that drops off. So there really is a wide range depending on the location.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pacheco. Commissioner Sharp, do you all have a general like department email, or is it just kind of you all's individual? Like what's that triaging looking like on the email side?
Everything goes to Julie.
Okay, so
Yes.
Julie would be the person.
Mhm.
Okay, great. And then this number here, 913-573-5113 is the number.
That is correct.
Okay,
Mhm.
great. Just wanted to make sure folks are aware, and again, we'll make sure this report is uploaded to the minutes. I know that there are childcare programs, micro enterprise assistance, facade improvement programs. Do we have any updates on those programs and where they're at right now?
I can tell you right now, I have 19 open files under childcare expansion. And let me explain a little bit how that program works as well. I have partnered with childcare licensing, and those activities actually start with childcare licensing, because I did not have access to the information to know whether or not we should be subsidizing a particular child care facility. So they check for any violations, any complaints. They make sure they're up on their taxes, their business license, and all of those things. Once they do that and they indicate that they are eligible, then that information, their application, which is on their website, comes to me. And then at that point, I make a phone call to the provider and I basically say, what are your needs? And depending on the provider, I've tried, because right now I'm pretty flush with funds. I'm pretty flexible. I have one provider that needed a new fence. I have another provider that needed a new laptop, so she could better communicate with the kids and do her billing and so forth. I have one provider that needed a lot of outdoor equipment or play equipment, rugs. We are modifying a bathroom for another provider so we can put the smaller toilets in for the kids. So it really just depends on what that provider needs. So we have conversations and they send me a list of their priorities. I go through them and I look at those that I think are going to be most directly applicable to the quality of care that the child receives.
Awesome. And then on the micro enterprise assistance, facade improvements, can you briefly talk to where we're at there?
Sure. Micro enterprise, we have two closed files. So we had one that it was a childcare facility, but it was completed under micro enterprise because they had a job creation component to it. So that moved it out of this particular category into just a micro enterprise category. I have another closed file. The applicant needed a large format printer because she had a t-shirt business. And she wanted to take it to the next level. So we were able to provide that. So, and I should say under micro enterprise assistance, again, I'm looking for stability. So we asked for 3 months of bank statements. We ask for their prior year federal and state income tax because we do want to make sure that they are staying within the law and doing those things. And then, of course, they have to have those same requirements, business license, paid up on their taxes and that kind of thing. So I always tell them, I said, I'm not looking for big balances in your checking account. What I don't want to see is 20 insufficient fund charges, because it probably means you're not at the place yet where you're going to, I can tell HUD in an audit that I believed you would be successful, because all of these, everything we do, every loan we, every grant we provide is subject to HUD audit. So I kind of work backwards from what I think from what HUD has said they're going to look at in an audit, and construct the programs from there.
Thank you. Thank you. And then facade programs, I know we were working with downtown. Any updates there?
Yes. We have not done facade downtown. We did just finish Fred's, Fast Fred's. We completed soffit work, new lights. He wanted a new front door and we repaved his parking lot. So we've completed that one. We're going to be working with Holt Barbershop in the spring. So we're going to completely redo the front of his store, paint. Typically facade is just the front of the house, but if the sides of the business or the building face or have direct access in terms of just looking at it, walking down the street, we can go ahead and do that. So we're going to repaint his building. We're going to put up a new awning, new lighting, that sort of thing. But obviously we have to wait for it to get a little bit warmer. And then we are also working with the laundromat on Quindaro. We are going to be upgrading, well, not upgrading, we're going to be providing a water softener system for him and we are going to provide 2 more washers and 2 more dryers as well, because he's ready to move to that in his business. So it's different. Everyone is different. So we'll just see how it goes.
That's amazing. And I don't mean to keep asking questions after questions,
Yep.
but I want folks to really understand how these dollars are going to work in our community. And just for us as commissioners to have some tools so folks can see, I mean, these aren't property tax dollars. These aren't dollars that we're having to come up with. We're putting these federal dollars to use. And so excited. I think towards the end of the year, I'll have to have you come back and see how things are going. And if there are any ribbon cuttings or anything like that for us to really highlight to the community how these investments are being used, particularly for our small businesses, childcare providers, and as such, please do let us know. And for my colleagues, my challenge, to all of us would be, we all know the needs of our district. Please do use the Community Development Department as a resource. If you know of folks that could benefit from these programs, it does not hurt at all to refer them and to make sure that they can see if they're eligible or find out what they can do to be eligible to access this. Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Sharp. This is very informative.
Welcome.
All right. We are moving and grooving on to our next department, Parks. Awesome. Okay. It's good to see you all. Thanks for your patience. Director Ferreira, I'll hand it off to you.
Yes, thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Commissioners, for having us tonight. We always appreciate the opportunity annually, generally at the beginning of the year, to come before you with an update from our department to give an overview of projects, programs, and initiatives, and maybe just some things to try to get ahead of and get on your radar as we start the year. So tonight, I do have a few other members of our team with us that'll be helping present this. So we have our Recreation Division Manager, Shea Lockett, Park Manager, Vincent Bellacci. We have our Fiscal Officer, Matt Zayas, and then our Museum Director, Amanda Hammond. So I know that we do have new faces tonight. So some of this we will be maybe presenting in more of an educational manner, but also a lot of the projects and stuff could be new information for, some of the other commissioners as well. So it is a little bit lengthy. We are going to be doing our best to be mindful and moving through it kind of quickly, and really looking forward to taking any questions you have at the end. So next slide, please. So first we'll start with the Parks Division. I always like to highlight some cool pictures. I mean, how beautiful are these? Not AI at all. If you had a chance to see the Northern Lights a few months ago, it was really beautiful. This is a submission from one of the residents that took it over Wyandotte County Lake. And then also just featuring Kensington Park, and looking forward to opening that up in the spring. So just some really neat pictures of people in our parks enjoying the views. So I will turn it over to Vinny Bellacci to take us through the next slide.
Thank you, Vince Bellacci, Manager of Parks. So Angel and I are going to bounce back and forth on the Park Division. So just a quick overview, and all this information is in our program guide. So Parks maintenance we're responsible for 54 parks over 2,600 acres. We also oversee the maintenance of cemeteries, and Sunflower Hills Golf Course falls under the Parks Division as well. The maintenance team, they're responsible for the one city pool along with 4 splash pads, maintaining the shelters, over 80 playgrounds, 6 community centers, 3 reservation halls, as well as assisting with the Wyandotte Museum maintenance. Then our horticulture team oversees the maintenance of 50 medians, 47 landscape beds, 9 rain gardens, and then some of the control of plants in the 4 lakes we have. Next slide, please.
So I just want to highlight a few of our transient guest tax TGT funded capital projects that we have approved for 2026. I think also important to note that this year, the TGT funds is our highest level of capital funding. I won't read through each one, but a few to just point out here would be the futsal court maintenance projects. We do have 10 futsal courts that we have a joint agreement with Sporting Kansas City on. So they will be also coming to the table to perform needed maintenance work ahead of the World Cup on those 10 courts. This 200,000 is a little less than half of what is needed for the total maintenance court project. And we do anticipate Sporting to come to the table to pick up that other half per the contract. We have a lot of playground updates happening at Wyandotte County Lake Park and Wyandotte County Park as well. And then also some deferred maintenance at Wyandotte County Park that will really be addressing the barriers around the roads that need improvement, some solar lighting at Cop Point Park, and then some improvements to the arch. And it is notable that while we are making an effort to do a lot of this work ahead of the World Cup, all of these investments will be long-term and lasting much longer than the World Cup. So we are excited to implement those here in the next few months. Next slide.
So the 2026 capital improvement project highlights. So we have an annual program for community center improvements. And those funds are allocated to address all kinds of repairs such as gym floors, roofing, code footprint work, and just any other facility needs when possible. So we have 200,000 set aside for that this year. And I'll point out the picture in the top right. That is the pedestrian bridge off of 10th Street leading into the Beatrice Lee Community Center. Obviously, you can see there it is aging and showing its age and needs some work. So we're working to identify what exactly needs to be done and work to get some estimates from there. Along with the rooftop HVAC system, and that total investment will be 230,000. Next slide, please.
I'll make a quick note. Those are just some highlights, the larger capital dollar or projects that we'll be working on this year. We do have a few others, but just wanted to share the highlights. So I'll talk on this slide about a few of the grant and federal funded projects that we have. So Parkwood Pool, if you remember, we came before commission and received approval to go after a land and water conservation fund grant last summer. And we were awarded that grant in the amount of $175,000. It is a 50-50 match. We were able to set some dollars aside implementing with that 350,000. So it's really just basic and immediate repairs with those dollars. And then also another grant funded project would be dollars received through congressional earmarks appropriated by Representative Sharice David's office in the amount of $250,000 for improvements at Rosedale Arch. We also do have, if you noticed on the transient guest tax slide, some dollars in our budget available for that project as well. So looking forward to invest $400,000 there. That will most likely look like addressing and improving the rock work, the flat work around that monument, and also some facade work and lighting as well. Next slide.
Some additional division updates and highlights. So as you may recall, we are working on implementing an asset management system. So this will help us really with our data collection and prioritizing projects once we get that going. So we'll be able to track work orders and have true costs, what our assets are costing us. We're expecting to go live mid-summer, so we're super excited to get that system underway. I know there's some other departments that you guys hear from that can provide real-time data and stuff like that. So we're excited for that. Deferred maintenance, this is an ongoing challenge. Some of the Most pressing ones are masonry work throughout our parks, park lighting and underground infrastructure, namely water lines. We have some aging water lines that are requiring a lot of maintenance from water leaks and such. So looking to get some of those going, specifically at Wyandotte County Lake Park. At the top right, we have the Marshall Creek Bridge. As you can see, that's showing some signs of deterioration. And as Angel mentioned, we have some money set aside to look into that. The rock wall, as many of you may know, is underway. It's currently demolished. So that bottom right picture is pretty much how it sits today. The old wall has been removed and we're just waiting on the new stone to come in here in a few weeks to start rebuilding that. And then just another note out at the lake, the marina, we're operating that in-house. So for those that aren't aware, we've been operating that in-house since 2023. And prior to that, it was contracted out for close to 50 years. So just a note there. Next slide, please.
So we'll cover some potential park development opportunities that could be on the horizon, just to make you aware and get these on your radar. The Riverfront Park, so our department did inherit roughly 4 acres of parkland. You can see that kind of depicted in the top picture. Conversations, I think, are still needing to take place on what the future of this site really looks like and what that looks like as far as building out a park and amenities. We know that there is a burning desire and need to have a park out in Western Wyandotte County, so that is a potential opportunity on our radar. Something to mention there is being able to identify land, whether that's through acquisition or working through community partners to do so. And then also, what does funding behind that park look like to bring it online? We've had some good conversations in the past just with some user groups in the area. So we are looking for ways to kind of get that conversation going and kind of see what that looks like moving forward here in the next few years. Riverview Park, this is roughly an 16-acre park located at 100 South 74th Street. Previously, we had a longstanding MOU with the Turner Recreation Commission. Last year, through some conversations and working with them closer, we really got to understand what their utilization for this facility has been over the last few years. And our understanding is, since COVID, they've had to do a lot of rebuilding with their programs and have just had a lot lower numbers in participation for leagues. So they no longer had a use for this facility. So last year they worked with us to give us some time to fold it back into our maintenance. So now we do have possession back of Riverview Park and are mowing and maintaining this facility. So it is a potential for opportunity. Silver City Park listed here, almost 38 acres, located at 2701 Ruby Avenue, is a park that we have that, again, has a lot of opportunity. Currently closed, there's not a lot of activity or improvements there. And then also Coronado Park, roughly 65 acres. You can see the address there, is also a park parcel for opportunity. And then I will say with Coronado Park, it's my understanding that when this park was either acquired or brought online, it was done so with LWCF funds, the Land and Water Conservation Funds. So just keeping that in mind, that those dollars generally do have some restrictions or requirements to it. So that's something that we would want to keep in mind when talking about any potential opportunities there. Next slide.
So the last slide for the Parks Division, this is Sunflower Hills Golf Course. And just note that Sunflower Hills is an enterprise fund. So although it's managed by Parks, it's not funded from the Parks Consolidated Fund. And then pictured to the right is the clubhouse. And it opened in 1977 and just hasn't had a lot of love throughout those years by way of any capital maintenance or improvements. So from the Benish golf course clubhouse assessment done in 2024 and kind of the recommendations through there, we've engaged with PGAV for some conceptual master planning and clubhouse replacement feasibility study. So we've engaged with them and kind of had the kickoff and some preliminary planning with them. And then this month we will continue with some stakeholder engagement, starting with the Golf Advisory Board next week. And then in April, continue gathering some additional information and starting the assessment. And then by May, we'll be defining the program and some of the feasibility updates. And then by June, hopefully wrapping this up and have some alternatives and conceptual designs that we can bring back. So we're excited to see that work progress. Next slide, please.
So I'll turn it over to Recreation Division Manager Shea Lockett to walk us through some recreation updates.
Good evening, Shea Lockett, Recreation Division Manager. Next slide, please. So I'll start with a brief overview of the division. There are several key components of our division that includes our administrative staff, the individuals who you meet when you come into the facilities and take our reservations, answer our calls and assist customers. We also have marketing, aquatics, sports, programming and activities. And then an overview of the facilities that fall underneath the recreation division are our 6 community centers, 3 reservation halls, our 1 pool, and then the 1 marina operations. Next slide, please. It's always important for us to talk about the types of program that the recreation division offers. The first type of programming is that programming that's offered by the department is organized and ran by unified government staff. That includes our sports leagues as well as community events, and then the classes that our staff teach within those facilities. There are also instructor contracts. Those are programs that are held within our facilities, but are taught by outside subcontractors. They can include anything from a fitness class to an art class, and there is a process they're able to apply online, submit a proposal, and we work through that process with them. And then finally, we have special events, which are events that are hosted by outside organizations within our facilities, that are open to the public or that charge a fee for admission into those events, and they follow our special event process. I do want to note, you see the brochure here. This is just some of the work that our team is doing to get our community excited about the World Cup coming to the area. So there's several different events that are planned for community residents and activities in our facilities surrounding the World Cup. Next slide, please. I want to spend a little bit of time discussing summer camp, because summer camp is a core service of the Parks and Recreation agencies. As it currently stands, the Unified Government Parks and Recreation Department only has 2 KDHE licensed summer camp sites, and those locations are at Eisenhower and Beatrice Lee. KDHE sets the regulations for school-age camps, and there are several requirements for those camps, including the facility, the layout of the facility, the code footprints that Vinny alluded to earlier, as well as staff to camper ratio and other regulations. Currently, our current staffing model, we have 6 seasonal staff that we hire through the summer to come work with us and offer our summer camp, and then 1 full-time staff member who supports camp activities. That allows us to have a capacity for 45 youth. The last few years, we've had to split camp up. So we run 4 weeks at Eisenhower in June, and then 4 weeks at Beatrice Lee in July to make sure we are meeting the ratios required by KDHE. And this, with these 2 licensed sites, oh, I can't talk today. These 2 licensed sites, it allows us to serve about a little over 360 youth in 2025. But there is opportunities for us to consider. We do have several facilities that that improvements are needed at, and we can work on getting improvements, including code footprints for those facilities, to be able to broaden our ability to serve more youth in our community. We have about 5 to 6 sites that can be licensed, and they can be licensed up to 99 youth at those sites, at each site. But that requires additional staff to meet the staff to camper ratios, additional funding, and it doesn't have to be done solely by unified government staff. It can also be done through partnerships. We can put out RFPs or MOUs for services for other organizations to utilize our facilities so that we are providing a broader range of service for youth in our community. Next slide, please. And then we always like to be able to provide an update on aquatic services here within Kansas City, Kansas. We've continued to, for the 4th year, offer the Joe Delaney Learn to Swim program at Parkwood Pool. This is a free swimming program that is supported through GEHA, the YMCA, and the Hunt Family Foundation. We partner with other community organizations such as the Boys and Girls Club. Our campers are able to come and attend this program, but a lot of the youth prior to attending were never able, had never submerged their head in water before. So we're teaching life-saving skills here and what to do if you are submerged in water. And so we are really excited to have that partnership. And then I would also like to point out that in 2024, we conducted the conditions assessment for Parkwood Pool. And that information, which Angel alluded to earlier, was presented in May of 2025 to the full commission. And so the LWCF funding that we receive, it's only able to address the basic and immediate improvements needed for Parkwood Pool. And so as staff, we have additional conversations in the commission regarding the future of Parkwood and how we continue to protect that asset for the community. And then I do want to take a moment to note that in March's National Recreations and Park Associations magazine, Parkwood Pool is the cover story for that magazine. And we're talking about the resiliency of the pool and how tough decisions, we've gathered together as a community to be able to continue to offer this vital service to our community and life-saving skills. And it also includes some of the history of the pool.
And I do just want to mention a little bit more about this. The edition just came out, so we didn't get to incorporate it into the presentation, but we'd be remiss not to highlight that tonight. And what a big deal that is, I think, for our community and for, you know, the history and story of Parkwood Pool and really just aquatics in general, especially in urban communities. So I really encourage you to take some time to read that. It's great to see the work that we're doing here in KCK featured on a national platform, but also really excited for what this feature could mean, especially if it's bringing more partners to the table in collaboration. So, and this doesn't happen without the support of our park board, our commission, our community. So this is really awesome for everyone. So just a little plug there for that feature.
Next slide. And at this time, I'll turn it over to our museum director, Amanda Martin.
Hello, Amanda Martin, Director of the Wyandotte County Historical Museum. Very happy to be here this evening. Thanks for having us. So being a history museum, I'll start with history. The Wyandotte County Historical Museum was founded in 1956. It was originally in Memorial Hall. It was in the late 1960s that the building was built out at Wyandotte County Park that now is still in existence and where you would need to go to visit us. So that makes this the 70th anniversary of the museum this year, which is kind of exciting. The museum has both artifacts and archives for Wyandotte County. We have probably about 54,000 artifacts, and I couldn't begin to tell you the number of documents and photographs. We have in our museum 3 exhibit galleries and a public program space that's also a rental space and a research library. The purpose of the museum is to share and preserve the history of Wyandotte County, and we do that through exhibits, through programs and outreach, answering research and cemetery inquiries, and simply, accepting donations of artifacts and caring and preserving them for posterity. And along with this, that includes stewarding the information for the 20 abandoned cemeteries that are under the United Government of Wyandotte County. We probably average 5 to 10 cemetery inquiries a week, people that are doing genealogy, looking for the site of the burials of their loved ones. So it's a really enjoyable part of the job to be helping people to do that. And then just to give some examples, specific examples of the work we do, right now we're in the process of planning our second lowrider car event, working with the local lowrider car clubs here in the Kansas City area, and really working to highlight that history and develop connections and an opportunity for the Mexican-American community in Kansas City to have a voice and to tell their history. We'll be having our third Indigenous Peoples Day in October, mostly working with the Wyandotte Nation of Kansas and the Delaware Tribe of Kansas, but looking to expand those partnerships. We're also implementing a program called Building Healthy, Engaged Communities through Historical Preservation. And this is a program that is funded through a Hollywood Casino grant that was given to the Wyandotte County Historical Society. It's a cemetery preservation program that teaches people how to clean headstones, repair headstones, and just simply learn about that process, how that is done, and the history, the really important history of these cemeteries that most date back to the early and mid 19th century. Then I'm also working, the museum is also working with Aaron Margolis, who's a professor at Kansas City, Kansas Community College, and for students to create a historical component to the Visit KC taco trail that we hope to have available in time for World Cup, so that people coming to visit, as well as our own residents, will not only be able to enjoy tacos, but will also learn about the history of these important entrepreneurs in Kansas City. Currently, we have an exhibit on Sumner High School that was curated by students at Kansas City, Kansas Community College, working with Professor Aaron Margolis and Shai Perry, who's the director of the art gallery. So we're very happy to that exhibit. This summer, we will have an exhibit called Americans, which is a Smithsonian Museums on Main Street exhibit. That looks at the really important role that Native Americans have had on the development of the United States, the development on American identity, and that exhibit's looking at this through a national lens. And then it's our job to create exhibits and programs throughout the county that draw attention to the Native American history of Wyandotte County and how that has served to develop this county and develop the identity of Wyandotte County. And then lastly, I just want to share that over the last few years, thanks to Cerner funds, we've been able to do work in the museum that was a long time needed. Probably it's been since the 1990s since any real work has been done on exhibit design or exhibit content in the museum. And so because of that money, we've been able to do some rebranding, work on the design aspect of the interior of the museum as we're redoing content and exhibits, as well as looking at wayfinding in the park so that people are able to find us and know that we're a museum and not just another shelter building in the park. So that's been very exciting for us. It's also been a great opportunity to really connect to what is important to us, and that is connecting with community. We have a new tagline, connecting the dots, so that it's about not only us sharing the history of Wyandotte County, but really connecting with the community to share that history with us. That's everything I have to share this evening, but if you're ever interested in knowing more, because this is just the tip of the iceberg, I would be more than happy to come back and give a more in-depth presentation. And please come out and see us. I would love to see you there. Thanks.
And before we transition into some funding, I just want to make a note that I think it was in 2022, after just some organization department restructuring, the museum and the golf course became officially under Parks and Recreation. And that's important to know. It's not like those two entities didn't exist, but in 2022, the direction was given to really fold it up under Parks and Rec, and we have really embraced kind of that responsibility and oversight. And there's a lot of collaboration that we can do there with the museum, and, the golf course makes sense. It's a perfect fit. So next slide, and I will introduce Matthew Zayas, our fiscal officer, to walk us through a few of these budget slides.
Matthew Zayas, fiscal officer. Funding, our department is largely supported through the Consolidated Parks Fund. In 2026, this represents 65% of our overall budget. Fund 113 is a product of multiple dollar sources. 34% of that fund is levied from county tax revenue. 54% is supported from the city general fund. 11% is supported from department fees, and 1% is made up of miscellaneous revenue sources such as the Renaissance Festival payment. There's other key funds that support department operations as well. Specifically, they include the dedicated sales tax fund, the special parks and recreation fund, and the tourism and convention fund. And then just a note on cost recovery. So the National Recreation and Park Association produces via different departments across the country. They come up with like the average cost recovery for parks and rec departments, and that's 27%. Our cost recovery is 8%. And then again, all the fees that we recover fold into that 11%, or a little over $1 million for department fees that support Fund 113. Next slide, please. We also wanted to highlight our recent capital investment. A lot of that has come from federal funds these last few years. And if we look over in the top chart, everything in blue is the grant dollar capital project budget. And then everything in orange is tax sourced. So you can kind of see those big blue chunks. The one from 2020 was largely the CARES Act. 2022 are those American Rescue Plan Act dollars. And then 2024 is mainly a $1 million congressional earmark that we received. In addition to those federal grants, of course, we were grateful to receive local, state, and community partners to help us with these projects. Also notable is our capital equipment. Prior to the last few years, the majority of our trucks and vehicles were honestly over 10 years old or had 100,000 miles plus on them. So we've tried to increase our investment for those as well. Next slide, please. The National Recreation and Park Association conducts a performance review every year, and this is basically a survey of comparable parks and recreation departments. One of the metrics that we wanted to highlight were annual operating expenditures. The column encircled in red is agencies who serve 100,000 to 250,000 people. The median operating budget for those agencies reported last year was 14.7 million. And then as a comparison, our Fund 113 operating was about 9.9 million. Next slide, please. So this metric focuses on capital budget spending throughout the last 5 years. Again, the column encircled in red is that one for agencies that serve 100,000, 250,000 persons. The last 5 years, our capital budget has been a little over 16 million, and about 52% of that has come from federal sources. And then again, it's notable that throughout the country, the median budgeted amount for capital projects for the last 5 years is about 25.5 million. Next slide, please.
So I just wanted to take this opportunity to highlight two grant opportunities that we may be coming before you this year to get approval for. So that LWCF, you've heard us say that many times tonight, the Land Water Conservation Fund, it is open again and it closes July 1st. It's a 50-50 match. I think it's important to note most of these opportunities we pursue as a 50-50 match. So it's really important that our budget has the capacity or we have the support to find that if we so choose to take advantage and leverage these opportunities. I think this is a great opportunity to maybe discuss further, some projects or further improvements to some of our facilities. The Outdoor Recreation Legacy Program, known as ORLP, if you remember, we did come before Commission for approval last year and did a collaboration submission with Public Works for the Riverfront Park. But due to the landscape with federal grants, that opportunity went on pause. We are told it's anticipated to reopen hopefully this spring. This is a massive opportunity, I think, for our community. The ceiling on this grant is 15 million, and it does require a 50-50 match. But I know that in talking with the facilitator, the dollars allocated for the state of Kansas have historically not been spent out. There are very few communities that really meet the requirements or the metrics for data for this grant, thinking census tracts and along those lines. So we are really prime candidate for this grant opportunity. And we're hoping that a lot of that stays the same, but we are going to wait to see if it becomes available, if any of that has changed. But we have been told, definitely put in, our project will be, highly looked at. So next slide. Just a few more slides. I always like to talk a little bit about challenges and opportunities. You can see here kind of what that looks like for our department. It pretty much remains steady, just still trying to chip away at deferred maintenance. Matt did a really good job of showing you what funding has looked like for our department over the last 5 years. I think everyone is well aware that we've been supported with a lot of grant and federal funding and really appreciate those allocations made from the commission. But I think just having conversations on what does that look like long-term for Parks and Recreation. Vandalism, I'd just like to point out, for example, a few weeks ago, we had an incident at one of our banquet halls. It was theft. The people actually got caught. That doesn't normally happen, but this particular incident is going to cost the department probably roughly $30,000 to repair what they had damaged. And so when you think of the amount of money that we spend on vandalism, it can get pretty costly, which is also why we're excited for the asset management system, so we can bring some hard data back to the community and the commission. And then staffing for centers and programming continues to remain a challenge. Lots of opportunities though, partnerships like we've talked about. We are able to create great public spaces. We've got a lot of amazing topography in our parks that we've done some creative placemaking that you can actually go back and see. The Broderick Crawford Court, I think, is a great example of that. And then always opportunities to leverage our existing grant or existing budget dollars with grant opportunities. Next slide. Want to talk a little bit about a case study. So if you take Clam Park, for example, since 2017, the department has invested $1.7 million into this park, and you can see that laid out here in this picture. We have updated tennis courts, new pickleball courts. That facility has lighting. There's a brand new trail that is almost a mile long that meanders through this park. We've got updated basketball courts. And if you have been by this park on the evenings or weekends when it's nice, you can attest that the usage is up and people are really appreciative of the new amenities. I think it's also important to note some of the economic development happening around the area and the park, or around the park, with some creation of new homes, 6 new homes under construction, and then also some land bank parcels under option for review to continue to add new homes. And I don't know if Alan wants to share a little bit, but also just, trying to reemphasize that, parks are economic development and can be a solution for some of that work happening.
Alan House is County Administrator, something that I and the park staff have talked quite a bit about, which is anchoring our economic development efforts in neighborhoods around our park improvements. And so, we've worked with Michael Sutton in the back here and on the agenda here in a minute, looking at the land bank and looking at how can these public investments front run private investment. And so when developers are coming and saying, where would you recommend that we pick up land bank parcels to put housing? I'd say, we've put $1.5 million into this park, and you can see the improvements and the amenities that are drawing people out to it. You can see that it's an activated space, and that becomes a much more attractive and less risky investment for developers to make when they're putting homes in those places. We think about Austin Daniels as another one on Quindaro. We're looking at, okay, what are the opportunities around that with vacant properties as well as land bank properties. So again, really just thinking about parks as centerpieces of neighborhoods, and as such, they are a great tool for advancing the other goals we have around new rooftops, which then allow for new commercial development, and really, again, using that public dollar as the initial investment that can spur all these additional investments. So, which is one of the ways that we're thinking about parks and how it connects to the broader aims across the UG.
And then next slide, last slide, promise. So always like to share just some really useful documents and resources. Our 2025 year-end report is now available. Hopefully you've received your hard copy. If not, we can definitely get you one, but it's on our website. It's been a really good tool for us to just share with our community and our user groups, our partners, on what we've done the last year. Here's how your dollar has been spent, and here's how you've interacted with us through the programs. On the right, you have our spring and summer program guide. We produce this document 2 times a year. So spring, summer is one, and then fall, winter. And this has everything that we have to offer for those seasons and how you can come out and get involved and engage with us. And then we do have a new document in the middle. Matt did a lot of work to get this document together, and definitely check it out. We'll make sure to send the link, but it's on our website. And what it is an investment review. So we gathered information from basically all the capital improvements and larger operating improvements that have went into the department since we did the master plan in 2017. So you can go find Kensington Park and see how much has been invested. And so I will just share a high level data point is roughly 23 million has been invested since 2017 into the department's inventory, which is pretty amazing and significant. And obviously we still have needs, but I think when we look back at when that plan was done and that price tag was so daunting, just thinking about what we've actually been able to do since then and finding ways to break that down and make it more digestible so that we were still delivering and addressing needs. So definitely check it out. Staff did a lot of work to put that together, and hopefully it's something we can continue to update along the way. That's all we have. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It was very comprehensive, and so I really, really appreciate that. And I think that it kind of again establishes that base knowledge for the committee. Let's do public comment. Clerk, did we receive any comments for this item?
No comments were received.
Any hands raised online?
There are no hands raised online.
For the folks that are here in person, would anybody like to speak to this item? Let the record show no one has approached. I'll go ahead and close the public comment portion. Committee, this is for information only, so thank you so much for your patience again. Just wanted to establish that baseline as the budget season is coming up. There's going to be questions about parks and investments and where dollars are going, and so wanted to try to get ahead of that. Any questions or comments? Yes, Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, thanks for the presentation and all the great work that you and the department does. I'm going to start with the rock wall at the lake. I'm just curious, and forgive me if I've asked it before and you've answered it. Did we save any of the rock? Have we salvaged the rock?
Yeah, and Vinny might be able to answer that, but a lot of that was really not salvageable. So a lot of it was hauled off.
Okay.
We did save a few A few pieces, yeah.
I'm just curious. It's
We
his,
saved you a piece.
thank you.
Yes, we did.
That's really what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
We do have souvenirs, but yes, most of it crumbled when it was taken down. Yeah.
It's historic. I mean, I love the rock, all of the rock at Wyandotte County Lake. So okay. Wyandotte County Lake, the park ranger, former residents. Has there ever been any thought on trying to utilize that as event space? And I think of it in terms of like retreats. I don't think it's big enough for big parties, but it could certainly host small retreats and things like that. Have we ever thought about that?
Yeah, that's Commissioner Ryan, that's a great suggestion. I think it's definitely possible if that was something that leadership in the commission would like us to look at. Davis Hall is rented almost every weekend, and a lot of the times it is for weddings. So it's definitely an option or a model that could be explored.
Just that sounds, again, I kind of want to go in there, so that's why I'm asking. Yes, sir.
Just to maybe broaden the question out too, we have been having conversations about activation of the lake more broadly, and there's a lot of opportunity there to provide more amenities, more things for people to do. The Ranger House that you mentioned, there's an old stable behind there. They used to have horseback riding. We're going to bring that back, but there's a lot of sort of potential things that could be done in the lake, and that's one of the things that we've been talking about and thinking about is how do you bring more activity and such a great amenity that is used by a lot of people and also has a lot of potential that is not fully utilized.
Also, with the World Cup, we could use it as a short-term rental. I'm kidding.
And just for, no, yeah. And just, I think to share information, I also wanted this to be educational. I know we have new commissioners. We do have 2 residential properties at the lake. Yeah, yes.
So Sunflower Clubhouse, do we have a count of individual golfers per season? Do we know how many unique individuals golf there per season? And the reason I ask is because could we engage them in the community engagement portion of what you're trying to achieve there, Vincent, as far as getting their input on a clubhouse?
Yes, so the annual report does have usage numbers for the golf course. We could probably pull what that is pretty quick. So 44,700 rounds played. I'm sure we could equate that to individuals or people. And then getting those user groups involved is part of that process. And, when we talk about stakeholders and getting their input and surveys and, working with our golf advisory board too. I don't know if there's anything else you'd want to share on that.
No, I think that covers it. We do have plans to engage league golfers and regular golfers of the such.
Yeah, that's great. The grant and federal funded project slide, I just wanted to highlight it because just the 2 projects that you shared with us, Parkwood and Mount Marty, show that with $174,000 in local taxpayer funds, you completed $750,000 in improvements through the grants and the federal funds. And so that's quite impressive, and it's only 2 projects. So I just wanted to highlight it and commend you for it because that is really impressive work to do. And thank you for that. And the last thing I want to say is I think that you've all been tasked with administering our Hollywood Casino grant fund process. Makes a lot of sense. Let's give it to the Parks Department. Thank you for doing that. And that is all I have, Commissioner.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Yes, Commissioner Pacheco.
I'm sorry. They've had so
Yes,
much
Mr. House.
that program with the Hollywood Casino grant that they're actually giving it back to administer.
Yes.
So
Did a great job
Just
while
for
you had
We
it.
picked up something else along the way though, so that'll be good. And then I want to just clarify real quick before we move on. I really appreciate the sentiments for the grants, but I just, for clarification, the Parkwood Pool and Rosedale Arch, those projects haven't yet to be implemented, but we do have the dollars. So we hope to be working on that over the next few months. Yes.
Yes, Commissioner Pacheco.
Thanks, guys. Going to a park in Western Wyandotte County, KCK, who are some of the user groups that you guys have already interacted with that we'll be maybe speaking with more in the future, just so I have an idea?
Yes, we had some initial conversations with Piper School District. And then very broadly, no, the soccer. The Optimist Club, yes. But that had been a little bit longer back of engaging with them. And I think that Piper School District is going through some leadership changes, so really looking forward to maybe seeing, what that looks like for them to fill that and re-engaging there. But it is something that we really need to get a little bit more involved and be more intentional on, actually, if it's getting a committee together or working with the park board to see if there's a subcommittee to actually probably get some legs under what does some engagement look like out there and to start actually getting the conversation going. So any guidance or information or feedback you would have on that, we'd be really appreciative of it. But it is the work that probably needs to be started and to get the conversation going.
What's the most recent example of a park that was built from scratch?
That is a great question. Since I've been here, we haven't done it yet, right? So it's been a while. I don't even know, maybe the last time. Cop Point, okay. 2004, Commissioner Bynum is saying, so. Yeah, no, that probably tracks, yeah. And so that's a great question, and I appreciate that, and keeping that in mind is, this is kind of new for the department, and something I didn't add on here is a lot of the planning work that our department needs to do moving forward to be able to identify hot pockets like Western Wyandotte, where we do know that a lot of rooftops are going up, and what does that look like for maybe the Parks and Rec department, other departments as well, right? But to kind of be anticipating what does either acquiring land look like, or how do we, navigate that process, whether it's through development agreement opportunities or things like that. But
And do you remember, Commissioner Bynum, how that was even funded back then at all? I know you weren't.
I do,
saying that, but-
actually, because it was the 200-year anniversary of Lewis and Clark, which is why, and they camped there. And that is why they built Cop Point Park, and actually a group of volunteers came together and massively fundraised to build that park. And then I think they handed it off to the Parks Department and said, here you go, we built you a park. That's my recall of that particular park. And I'm trying to think if there was anything more recent, but that was literally a built from scratch park.
Who's been some of our most, I know you mentioned sporting for one of the projects, but any other companies in the maybe last 5 to 10 years that we've had good partnerships with so far? Private wise?
just in general,
Yeah, just,
yeah,
I'm a big fan of just, hey, if you've done it for me before, let's do it again. It worked, right? So.
yeah, for
We're talking about
partnerships
partnerships for out in Western Wyandotte County.
in Western Wyandotte County, okay.
Doesn't have to be any project that we've done in Western Wyandotte County, but just anything that you guys have been involved with
Yeah.
recently.
So I would say our swim program, GEHA, that's a really good example, right? Like, they bring the funding to the table. The YMCA supports the actual operational. It's a much smaller scale than, probably like capital. I will say the Wyandotte County Parks Foundation has been really key and strong lately in wanting to, kind of broaden their horizons and maybe start to help support some larger investments. I don't want to speak for them, but I do know that that is of interest. And then
I would say these two grant opportunities, the Land Water Conservation Fund is an excellent opportunity. I think you can actually do acquire land through those grant opportunities. And so those are two things to consider. There are some dollars in our budget to 250,000 that allowing that, we can kind of build from there. But I can give that some thought on what that could look like and, maybe some other companies that I'm not thinking of right now. Yeah, and then, so Alan was mentioning being able to have a person on staff that can assist with development and what that could look like if it's, grant funding or raising dollars or working collaboratively with the Park Foundation. There's a good example in the Metro of a park district that does that really well, and they kind of positions we've had before, but something that we should maybe start to consider as we continue to either build out our park inventory or even build within our parks, because we've done a lot of that lately. And a lot of that, is consulting work because we just don't have the bandwidth and capacity internally to do so.
Then just switching gears really quick, on the financial aspect, we said 11% of the budget or the revenue comes from fees. Is that right? How you phrased it, Matt?
That's correct. That is what is anticipated for 2026.
Okay. How do we decide how much we charge? Actually, my first question is, what do fees include? What is that?
Yep, and so we can send out that list. The way that process works is it gets approved through the county administrator on an annual basis. But some of our fees would be like youth sports programs, the dock slip fees, the community center, reservation spaces, fishing permits, boating permits, things like that for parks and recreation.
Gotcha. And then maybe Alan, what's kind of the process of deciding to increase, decrease, things like that?
Most fees are set, the administrator, on an annual basis sets the fee. So departments can come forward with a recommendation. In parks, there's this tug between wanting to have things that are affordable and also the revenue. So, that's really why you see that cost recovery number so low, is the amount charged for recreational programming is low. It's not nothing, because there is value in charging something so people are a little bit of skin in the game, if you will, get better participation, that sort of thing. But trying to also keep those rates low. But the administrator sets the fees on an annual basis.
Do we feel like there's any opportunity for the fees to be a little bit higher? Even though you just said that there's that tug of war between those two things, right? But I just,
The answer is, yes, I think there is an opportunity for that. And
Yeah, it's always worth benchmarking. We did something similar, I think, back in 2017, and when I say benchmarking, for us, it's really important when we do that, is we are seeking out communities that are like us, right? Like demographics and kind of keeping all of that in mind, wanting to kind of apples to apples, not apples to oranges. So that work can definitely be done and brought back forward. And I do think that something important to note at the time, if I remember, because it's been some time now since we've done it, a lot of what kind of will play a factor in that is also the state of the facility or the quality of the amenity too. So sometimes we're not able to maintain it at a high level. They're, like the fields, for example, we can maybe only charge so much. But that's a great question, and definitely some work that could be done there.
yeah, I'm definitely not in the business of just, we're not trying to milk our residents for, these sorts of opportunities for them to enjoy. But at the same time, it's getting, to the question of funding these sorts of things. We always want to be mindful as best we can of not necessarily having to go into our general fund as much as we can, so that's why I bring it up. So thank you. I think it'd be good for us to maybe consider that a little bit further to just kind of see how competitive our fees are when we benchmark against like communities and things like that. Of course, our community has plenty of folks who we definitely do not want to keep from enjoying everything that our park system and recreation system can be, but something that I think we should consider. Thank you, guys.
I just will use one example, like the Clam Park again, putting in pickleball courts there. That was our second, I think, set of pickleball courts. Opens the opportunity to then have leagues rent that out for certain nights of the week that just weren't there before. And so again, upgrading the quality of and putting in new amenities opens that new door for revenue. Still open to most of the public most of the time, but for specific leagues that want to rent high quality spaces. It's now
Thank you, Commissioner Pacheco, for that conversation. I know we've talked about that balance of cost recovery and where that sweet spot is. And one day it's the fees need to generate more. The next day is the fees are too high and I'm trying to get in. So it's always a tough thing to manage. Okay, thank you all so much. This is very, very good. It's for information only. And so we really appreciate this kind of in-depth view. We're very intentional about the conversation tonight on things that commissioners have mentioned as a concern, whether it be the lake, whether it be Park Out West, Sunflower Golf Course, Parkwood Pool, all those things. So thank you all so much. Okay, we're going to transition to our land bank and get that process started. And yeah, thank you for your land bank applicant that's been waiting. We do appreciate your patience. And thank you to our park staff. That was very informative. Okay, so we are moving on. Item 4.3 which is a resolution that will formally appoint Michael Sutton as the land bank co-manager. I see Mr. Sutton, Mr. Knapp here, along with Ms. Filter. So thank you all so much for joining us. I'll hand it off to you to get us started with this item.
Yes, this item, I will sum it up. This is to allow Michael Sutton to sign deeds and option agreements. So there'd be two of us in the office that could sign these agreements. We had an example last week. We had a builder come in. He had all his paperwork completed, and we got the deed to him in 15 minutes. So if I was in a meeting, I couldn't do that. So this is just adding Michael so he could sign for the land bank.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, clerk, do we have any item or any comments for this item?
No comments were received.
Any hands raised online?
There are no hands raised online.
For the folks here in the gallery, would anybody like to speak to this item? Let the record show no one has approached. I'll go ahead and close the public comment portion. Is there a motion, committee?
Bynum, so move.
Is there a second?
Howard, second.
All right, clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call. Stites,
Aye.
Pacheco.
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
The vote is 5-0. The motion carries.
Thank you so much. That takes us to our options without any opposition. Please take it away, our land bank staff.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. Give me 1 second here. I'm sorry, getting set up. And we do have a couple of changes to the land bank options menu. Apologize. Can't get the right screen up. Give me 1 second here. Right. Okay. I think I got it. There we go. Okay. Thank you for your patience. Changes that we have to the agenda Item A12 was originally for a single-family home. The applicant has updated this application to a multifamily application. And then item C2 was pulled so we can help this applicant find another or a better suited lot for them. And then we do have one change for one of the property transfers, but I know you want me to go ahead and do that one now or wait till we get to the property transfers.
Yeah, let's just focus on the options for housing and then we'll just work our way through.
Understood, Commissioner. Thank you. Item A1, Will Bowles, 2920 Washington Avenue, 2921 Everett Avenue, 2914 Everett Avenue. Item A2, Will Bowles, 2619 Freeman Avenue, 2615 H Freeman Avenue, and 1515 North 27th Street. Item A3, Cookie Francine Sutton, 2646 North 20th Street, 2748 North 21st Place. Item A4, Juan Cisneros, 928 and 930 Orville Avenue. Item A5, First Wave Investments, 8822 Cleveland Avenue. Item A6, First Wave Investments, 1904 South 73rd Terrace, 7349 Douglas Avenue, and 1912 South 73rd Terrace. Item A7, T&M General Construction, 3253 North 48th Street. Item A8, T&M General Construction, 3412 North 40th Street. Item A9, T&M General Construction, 3520 Delavan Avenue. Item A10, Roger Avalos, 251 North Early Street. Item A11, RA Engineering Corp., 7951 and 7941 Savage Drive. Item A13, Pilar KC LLC, 26 South Minnie Street, 110 South Cherokee Street. Item A14, Pilar KC LLC, 805 North 12th Street. Item A15, the Islas Fam LLC, 8HN Mill Street. Item A16, HBA Development, 3040, 3038, 3036, 3034, 3031, and 3029 North 22nd Street, and 3032 North 21st Street. Item A17, Brian Waterman, 4015 Coleman Court. Item A18, 3551 Freeman Avenue. Item A19, Brian Waterman, 216 North 35th Street, 210 North 31st Street, 217 North 31st Street.
Thank you so much. We'll stop there at the A's just to keep everything flowing and consistent. Okay, I'm gonna do public comment. Clerk, were there any public comments for the items that were just read?
No comments were received.
Any hands raised online?
There are no hands raised online.
For the folks in the gallery, would anybody like to speak to the items that were just read? Let the record show no one has approached. I'll go ahead and close the public comment period. Committee, is there any comments or is there a motion?
Second.
Okay, there is a motion to approve by Commissioner Pacheco and a second by Commissioner Howard. Clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call. Stites,
Aye.
Pacheco.
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Vote is 5-0. Motion carries.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's do B. And Mr. Sutton, I know you said A12 was removed and then moved over. So if you could just highlight which one for us, that'd be great.
Understood, Chair. Thank you. Again, Michael Sutton, Redevelopment Coordinator. Item B1, Matos Group LLC, 2927, 2931, 2943, and 2945 North 12th Street, 2935 Rear North 12th Street, and 2918 North Bethany Street. Item B2, which was originally on your agenda as item A12. This is RA Engineering Corp., 2401 Rear North 59th Street. And that concludes my items for multifamily. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Clerk, do we receive any comments for these two items?
No comments were received.
Any hands raised online?
There are no hands raised online.
Okay, for the folks here, would anybody like to speak to those two items? Let the record show no one has approached. I'll go ahead and move to approve. Is there a second?
Bynum, second.
Okay, clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call. Stites,
Aye.
Pacheco.
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Vote is 5-0. Motion carries.
Okay, takes us to our commercial. Mr. Sutton?
Thank you, Chair. Again, Michael Sutton, Redevelopment Coordinator. Item C1, 3808 Leavenworth Road. And I will remind item C2 was removed. We're working with this applicant to find a better location for the business he's trying to do. Then item C3, Food Incorp., 2059 North 12th Street. And that concludes my commercial applications. Thank you.
Thank you so much, clerk. Did we receive any comments for those two items?
No comments were received.
Any hands raised online?
There are no hands raised online.
For the public that are here, would anybody like to speak to those two items? Let the record show no one has approached. Is there a motion, committee?
Bynum, so moved.
Is there a second?
Pacheco, second.
All right, second by Pacheco. Clerk, can you get the roll?
Roll call. Stites,
Aye.
Pacheco.
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
The vote is 5-0. Motion carries.
Property transfers. Mr. Sutton?
Yes, thanks again, Chair. Michael Sutton, Redevelopment Coordinator. We did have one change with this agenda. Late last week, we received opposition for item PT4. I'll go ahead and go through the agenda and we can circle back to that if you'd like. Awesome. Item PT1, Hector Rosales for a garden at 1931 North 17th Street. Item PT2, J. Librado Ruiz Ayala, yard extension at 1128 and 1130 Osage Avenue. PT3, Austin Jones, 750 Sandusky Avenue. PT5, 3 parcels going to Parks and Rec. This is at 2040 North 3rd Street, 311 Stewart Avenue and 315 Stewart Avenue. These parks abut Edgerton Park. And then the final on the consent is PT6, another transfer to UG Parks. This is at 2809 Rear North 26th Street, and this abuts Clam Park. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just so folks are aware, again, you have two different entities, the Land Bank Board of Trustees, the Unified Government. One, the trustees is a separate entity. So that's why we have to do the transfer to parks. Okay, clerk, any comments for the items that were read?
No comments were received.
Any hands raised online?
There are no hands raised online.
Awesome. For the folks that are here in person, would anybody like to speak to this item? Let the record show no one has approached. Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public comment portion. Is there a motion for the property transfers?
Checo, so moved.
I'll go ahead and second. Clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call. Stites,
Aye.
Pacheco.
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Bynum. Davis.
Aye.
The vote is 5-0. Motion carries.
Okay, we have our one item that did have some opposition. So staff, if you could go ahead and explain that to us.
Thank you, Chair. Michael Sutton, Redevelopment Coordinator. WOPT4, Tina Jones, 2024 Quindaro Boulevard. This is for a yard extension. The opposition came from the neighborhood group OCP. They were wanting to know what the applicant's plan was for that yard moving forward. I did reach out to the applicant and was able to speak with them. From what they told me, they would like to fence in this unit and then at some point put residential dwelling units on that lot. I did inform the neighborhood president and they said they would still like to continue to hold their opposition on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. Do we know when the neighborhood meets?
I do not know. No.
Okay. Let's do public comment. Clerk, were there any comments for this item?
No comments were received.
Any hands raised online?
There are no hands raised online.
Okay, for the folks here in person, would anybody like to speak to this item? Let the record show no one has approached. I'll go ahead and close the public comment portion. Committee, any questions regarding this item, or is there a motion? What would we like to do? Yes, Commissioner Bynum.
Michael, the applicant, she must own something adjacent. What does she own?
Correct. She owns 2020 Quindaro Boulevard. Per our policy for a yard extension, the applicant meets all the qualifications.
And it is 1/10 of an acre as far as the size of parcel 2024 Quindaro.
Just from looking at it, I would say you're probably looking at around it's probably under a 50-foot of frontage, but it's definitely still larger than 25 feet. So just judging off of that, they would be able to theoretically put a house there.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, Commissioner Howard.
Yeah, Howard, District 1. Mr. Sutton, how long has Miss Tina been there? Lived at that residence, do you know?
I am not sure, Commissioner Howard.
Okay.
It's a good question.
Does anyone know? Judd, listen, no? Okay. Is this the first time that she's filled out the application for this extension?
To my knowledge, yes. Now, granted, I've been here for about a year, so if she would have applied before the yard extension policy became active last year, I wouldn't be tracking on that. But this is the first one that she's put since I've been here, yes.
Nobody else had opposition, just OCP? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Yes, Commissioner Pacheco.
Thank you. So what was exactly her plan again that she wants to put on there?
The applicant, thank you, Commissioner. The applicant told me that first thing she plans to do is fence in the lot. And then after the lot's been fenced in, she would like to essentially build a house on there for her family.
What is the main, I guess, idea of the opposition? I know they remained in opposition, but why are they opposed to that?
So OCP, if they do not meet with the applicant a lot of times, they will oppose it because they would like to know specifically what the applicant is doing with the lot before they give the okay. For example, Fran Sutton's lots were also included on here. They're very well aware of what she's doing. They didn't have any opposition for it. I would think that's a big part of their opposition. They just want to know specifically what's going on with it.
All right, Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you. But circling back around, I thought that we had revised our policy such that these applicants were being asked to meet with the neighborhood groups.
That is correct, Commissioner. They are asked. I am not sure 100% if this applicant did, but they were definitely told that they need to.
I see. So I'd be willing to hold at least a month. And I think we learned last month that OCP has gone to quarterly meetings. So they may not meet again until March or April. I don't know. Do you? Offhand? They may not have a meeting until April. We can find that out easy enough. And I think we can also research the parcel that Ms. Jones owns 2020, and we can identify when that property transfer took place. So we can do a little bit of research and know some of this. And I don't have any issue with a hold to our next NCD meeting, and I'll make that as a motion.
Okay. I'll go ahead and second that motion. Are there any other comments? Okay, clerk.
Commissioner Stites, I do. I'm sorry, if you're ready.
Oh, if you have a comment, Commissioner, we can take that comment before the vote.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So in the event that they don't have a meeting again for, in our time frame when it comes back, what would we do then? Are we just going to ask the applicant to reach out to the OCP, or how would we handle that if there's not a meeting before then?
Yeah, it's Commissioner Davis. I mean, we need to find out when the meeting is, but all the policy says is that the applicant will make every effort, right? That applicant can't control when the neighborhood meeting happens. They can't control emails, right, schedules or anything like that. We just ask them to make an effort. We don't have anything right now that says that an effort has been made. And so that's why I second what Commissioner Bynum said.
Oh, go ahead.
There is a response, Commissioner Stites, I think, to your question regarding this, and it may provide a little bit more context.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Sutton, did you have something?
Oh, thank you, Commissioner. I was just going to say, as last time I spoke with this applicant last week, I did let them know that they do need to reach out to the neighborhood group. So what my plan was, before we would come back to the 30th meeting on the 30th, I would need that applicant to verify with some sort of screenshot that they have at minimum reached out. So.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that answered the question, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Stites. Staff, was there anything else to add? Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. There was a motion by Commissioner Bynum and a second by myself to hold this over to our next meeting, March 30th. If there are no other comments, clerk, can you take the roll?
Roll call. Stites?
Aye.
Pacheco?
Aye.
Howard?
Aye.
Bynum?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
The vote is 5-0. Motion carries.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think that takes us to 4.6, which is a resolution authorizing the Wyandotte County Land Bank to hold specified properties for remediation of contamination. See, Ms. Marcy Fielder is here. Thank you so much. Please take it away.
Thank you. Melissa Marcy, Planning Department. I also function as our Brownfields Coordinator. Could you pull up the presentation first, Clerk? Thank you. So I did lump these both together, but just to be clear, is the next item the K-State or the Douglas Sumner item? Douglas Sumner, okay. We might have to start halfway through this then, Clerk. Okay, So this hold request is for 54 land bank parcels in the Douglas Sumner area. I just wanted to give a little bit of background on why we got to that number. So this really started in 2023 when the Douglas Sumner Neighborhoods Association started working with Build Wyco on a land bank strategy, given that they have in total over 400 vacant lots in their neighborhood, about half of those being land bank. In 2023, 2024, Groundwork NRG had started some peer learning groups that were funded through grants to essentially inform residents about what soil contamination is in their neighborhoods. Through this process, we actually were connected with K-State's soil chemistry department, and were able to do some kind of preliminary sampling of soil in the Northeast. From that, there really was a bunch of interest that was garnered in being able to do brownfields assessments on the land bank parcels in Douglas Sumner. So in December 2024, the UG was able to submit 220 land bank parcels in Douglas Sumner for brownfields assessments. And that was completed in really the very end of 2025, a little spillover into 2026. So what that those assessments found that of those 220 parcels, 163 of them have been cleared for redevelopment, which is great news. However, 57 in total were found to be contaminated, 54 of those in which are still land bank parcels. So if you go to the next slide, please. So earlier this year, knowing that information and knowing that we had the last round of BIL funding through the EPA Brownfields grant competition, the UG applied for $3.7 million to clean up those 54 parcels. Next slide, please. So this is the hold that you see right there. They're a little bit spread out. Some of them are kind of in bunches, but some of these are single parcels. Next slide. So basically what we're asking for is we will hear back about the grant award in the early summer of this year to see whether or not we receive that cleanup funding. But because we know that these parcels are contaminated, we would like to hold them so that no one is entering an option agreement or purchasing them until they're cleaned up and cleared for redevelopment. I will mention that the primary contaminants that we see are lead, which is very common in urban areas across the metro and the country, as well as some soil gas contamination from petroleum-related products. So thinking of things like radon being a concern as a vapor, there's some concern with some petroleum substances too. So I'll take some questions if you have any.
Thank you so much. Let's do public comment. Clerk, did we receive any public comments for this item?
No comments were received.
Any hands raised online?
There are no hands raised online.
Okay. For the folks that are here in person, would anybody like to speak to this item? Let the record show no one has approached. I'll go ahead and close the public comment portion. So I just want to get clarification. 4.6, authorizing the Wyandotte County Land Bank. This is for the Douglas Sumner Lights for 54. Okay, which is what we just went over. Awesome. Just wanted to make sure we were aligned there. If we were to not be awarded this grant, do we have a backup plan for those 54 parcels?
Yeah, there are other avenues. This would be the easiest and the cleanest way to do it just because it's one lump sum, and we'd probably have to take the approach of parceling these out into different sections and going after funding. So, but that is possible.
Gotcha. Okay. Other questions? Yes, Commissioner Howard.
Thanks for listening. Quick question for you. Well, actually a couple. How long is that process for the 54 parcels?
Good question. So for the majority of them that don't have soil gas issues, that's as simple as cleaning out, basically taking out the soil, bringing in clean fill. That process in and of itself can take maybe a year to do all of them. The other caveat to this would be those that do have the soil gas contamination. Basically, the solution for that, there's no real way to remove it. Just like when you have radon in your soil and you have a home, you have to install vapor barriers and a monitoring system. So for those particular parcels, it would be part of the redevelopment process. So say we got the soil cleaned out with the lead. Part of the cleanup would be, okay, when someone comes in to build, now you say, all right, we have funding, we're going to give you to use for the vapor barrier and the mitigation system. So it would kind of go on whatever timeline that would be associated with.
And the last one would be this 3.7 million that's the grant, right?
Correct.
Now, is that allotted for the 54 parcels only?
Yeah. So in the calculations, we estimated about $50,000 per parcel for remediation. We also have so that brings us to about 2.5 million for 54 parcels. We also have allotted about 800,000 for contingency, and this is really related to what we might find when we start digging, because we are assuming there's probably going to be some house debris and other things like that, as well as budget for some additional testing if we think we need to test other lots for the soil gas issues. And then the remaining budget is really managing it, getting the qualified environmental professional hired to oversee it and that kind of thing. And there's some budget in there for public engagement too. So the scope includes meeting with the neighborhood, which is not limited to Douglas Sumner, but meeting with them at least once a quarter to kind of give an update on the progress.
Thank you. Okay. Committee, this item is actionable. So if there are no other questions, is there a motion?
I motion to approve. Howard, motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Pacheco, second.
Okay. Clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call. Stites,
Aye.
Pacheco,
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
The vote is 5-0. Motion carries.
Okay. Our last item of the night is authorizing the Wyandotte County Land Bank to hold specified property for the KSU led study. We'll go ahead and hand it off to staff.
Thanks. So Liz Marcy Planning. If you could pull up the presentation and start from the beginning. Thanks, Clerk. So this is for a much smaller, fewer amount of parcels that are spread out throughout KCK, but it is for a longer period. So next slide. So I just wanted to show this, and I can kind of take you to the map too that was pulled up earlier, but this is a new feature that we've had. We've never had this before. And what this map is showing you right now is every single active or closed brownfield site in KCK, as well as all of community development's environmental reviews, which are associated with clearing parcels to be eligible for home funds, as well as the green, which is lead. And so next slide. So back when when we were talking about the peer learning groups and we started partnering with K-State, we've been working with Dr. Hederachi, who is a world-renowned soil chemist. So I'm going to give you a very layman's overview of it, because I'll be honest, I'm not sure I could explain it to you in full. But we started working with her department and her students on a potential lead study. And so lead's, very common. It's ubiquitous in materials pre-1970s, common in paint, household items, that kind of thing. And unfortunately, in many urban areas across the country, those things have become human health issues for our residents. In particular, however, it's very dangerous for children where there is no safe level of lead. Their GI systems are not mature enough, so they do absorb lead at a very fast rate compared to adults who have a mature GI tract. So next slide, please. So we decided we would partner with K-State. So I do want to say that K-State is already doing a very similar study across the river in KCMO that they have been doing for a couple of years. And what they're doing is looking at an alternative way to deal with lead contamination in urban areas, specifically with the goal of being able to mitigate its impact on children. Back in 2024, I believe, K-State applied for a HUD grant to do the exact same type of study in KCK. and be able to look at not only vacant lots, but also residential lots. So they've been working with our public health department. So we do have residences that are currently lived in where there are children that have been found to have elevated blood levels. So they did receive the grant and now they have started the study. And what this basically includes is changing the bioavailability of lead. So in short, what they're looking at is instead of removing all of the soil and having to replace it, which is very timely and expensive, they look at treating it with different types of amendments that will change the chemical structure of lead so that it cannot be absorbed by the human body. So in specific, they found that phosphorus is a really great solution to be able to change the bioavailability of lead so that it cannot be absorbed by children or other human beings. So what you're kind of seeing on that left hand side, that photo, that's sort of what the study looks like. And I know that some of our residents have already seen this. They went out this past summer and fall doing this, but essentially they have specific scientific plot plans that they have to follow. They test the soil ahead of time to be able to figure out what the concentration of lead is, and then they study how that changes over time. So that is why it is a 2-year request. They've already been doing this for about 6 to 8 months. The original request was for 30, so we're already kind of into that, which is why the request now is 2 years. So if you go back to the map, if you want to open. I just want to show you one of the benefits of this is in order for them to figure out which sites to include in the study, they actually had to find sites contaminated with lead. So all of those green spots that you see now on this map are sites that they tested that were not contaminated with lead or above certain levels. So we actually got a lot of free labor out of this, where more than 60 sites in our city were tested in order for them to identify the proper sites that would be part of the study. So you can go back to their PowerPoint. Go to the one more. So this is just kind of an example of what you would be seeing out there and some of the equipment. Again, they have very specific assessment plans that they use to do this. There are certain tools, that radar guns, different things they use to test the lead. And again, they will be adding different amendments to those different kind of blocks over time and just testing and seeing the lead go down. And they have seen that in KCMO as well. And this is an example too of someone who this is a vacant lot next to their house, but their house is also included. So this is probably the highest lead levels that we had found when they tested all of the sites. Next slide. So yeah, the request is for 10 parcels for 2 years. Those are the parcels there, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you so much. Let's do public comment first. Clerk, did we receive any comments for this item?
No comments were received.
Any hands raised online?
Yes, there is one hand raised online.
Yep.
That is Elnora Tellis Jefferson.
Okay. Ms. Jefferson.
Yes, hi, good evening. I have a question on the list that Alyssa, that you showed in caring neighborhoods, the lot with Vanessa Robinson that had the huge amount of lead contamination. I didn't see that on that list. Did I misread that?
Well, it's Marcy. So this is just for the land bank lots. So Vanessa's personally owns a lot and her own lot that has her house on it are in the study, but since they're not part of the land bank, they're not part of the request.
Okay, so what is being requested here will be only for land bank lots?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jefferson. Are there any other hands raised online?
There are no other hands raised online.
Okay, I'll close the online portion. For the folks here in person, would anybody like to speak to this item? Let the record show no one has approached. This is amazing. I know we've kind of had a long night, but this has been a ongoing concern just with the work that we do month after month. And so to get this level of traction, and I'm hoping this study is successful and we have some more affordable ways to do mitigation. And my understanding is there are other things that folks can do for development that they're just because the soil is contaminated doesn't mean you can do nothing, but that there are options and safe ways for us to do it. So I look forward to the study. I look forward to our efforts to continue this. And I'm hoping we get to find some interesting information. And I'd be curious, maybe in 6 months or something like that, you all come back and if we've heard something from KC Mo, just to see what's happening on their side. I know they have a land bank as well, just to continue to grow our knowledge of this and continue to practice safety. So really appreciate K-State and appreciate our planning department and your work, Alyssa, on this. Any comments for this item? Yes, Commissioner Pacheco.
Thank you. I'd just like to make a quick comment. I know that this is very important work. You know, I think in Wyandotte County, I was trying to find the numbers, but really I know that as a general rule in Wyandotte County, we have higher rates of elevated blood levels in children than in other parts of the state for a lot of the reasons that we already heard. A lot of our buildings are older than other areas of the state, this, that, and the other. So, and when we look at the safety of our land bank for future families, I think it's extremely important that we undertake this type of work. So I'm glad that we're doing it. And begrudgingly, I say thank you to K-State as a Jayhawk, but no, it's
I second that.
It's wonderful work. It's worth speaking out of turn for even, right? So, but yeah, absolutely. I think this is great work that we're doing, and I look forward to seeing the results of it as well.
Thank you. Thank you. I echo the sentiments regarding the Wildcats. I do want to ask one more question here. That map is very, very valuable. Is that publicly available? Can we send that out to other land bank applicants? Like, how can we utilize that map to just better inform our economic development?
Yeah, Alyssa Morrissey. So it is publicly available. If you go to the Economic Development Department page and click on brownfields, it's the first thing that pops up. This is exactly what you'd see there. So yeah, if you want to demonstrate. This is also meant to be an actively updated map. You have to go to brownfields before you. Yeah, there you go. So you would click on that image of the map and it'll take you to the GIS application. But this is meant to be updated live, so you can actually see the status of where each parcel is in the assessment phase or so on and so forth. But I think what's great about this is it's searchable by address, but you can also see if it's cleared for redevelopment. That might be a really great opportunity to pursue those sites while we fix some of our other problems.
Awesome. Awesome. Commissioner, Council, was your comment pertaining to this, the map, or is it for something else? Okay, Commissioner Howard, and then I'll get to Council. Okay, yes, please, Ms. Green.
I did want to bring up that map is also very important. As we've discussed before, the land bank lots are all sold as is. And the question came up at the last standing committee meeting when a building permit is applied for and if it's handed out, our building inspectors or when that application process is gone through, is it required that a phase 1 environmental study is done? Do the applicants have to prove that there is no environmental harm on these lots, that everything is okay? And the answer to that question is no. They do not have to show any environmental studies have been done on the lots or that there's any environmental concerns. None of that has to be done before they apply for a building permit. None of that's required. What our inspectors look for is the site, is the proper footing there for the site? In other words, could a building be built there without it falling into the ground? They just want to make sure the site is sturdy enough for a building to be there. Whether or not there's lead on that site, they don't look at that. So that's why that map would be very important for somebody selecting a land bank site to know what they were getting into ahead of time. And as Judd and Michael have both mentioned before, we do put that in the online application process that anybody applying for a land bank lot should really consider doing that environmental type of study. Thank you.
So much, Council. And Mr. Howells, you want to add on?
Want to add on to that. Allen House Assistant Administrator, you heard Ms. Sharp earlier tonight. One of the things that community development has been doing is doing phase one environmental assessments on lots, on land bank lots, in order for builders to access that $35,000 subsidy that she mentioned. They do have to do a phase one environmental and
Just to clarify, it's an environmental review, which is a desktop review. It is not a phase one, but yes, it does clear them for that. Yep.
So there is a kind of the initial review on the lots before they become eligible for that HUD funding.
Thank you so much. And so all of this information can then be leveraged and informed, and hopefully, and I know we've talked about getting kind of a link to that kind of brownfield program to the land bank so that as folks are applying, they just have all the information at their disposal as we consider the application. So thank you, staff, for that context. Commissioner Howard.
Howard, District 1. How did we choose K-State since KU is parked right in our backyard?
Alyssa Marcy, it really has to do with who's leading this research globally, which is K-State specifically. And don't look at me like that. I'm not from here, so this doesn't matter to me. You can fight your fight later, but no, I mean, it's true. They were already doing the work in KCMO, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would imagine because of that ag background, that soil testing and remediation comes pretty naturally, so. And the extension and the land grant. Yeah. They are the extension for us, and their office is down here. So I don't have as much resentment in my heart because they do a lot of good work. We're actually going to work to get them to come present to us as well at some point. Okay, this is for action. So if there are no more comments, is there a motion?
Pacheco, so moved.
Bynum, second.
All right, the motion by Pacheco, Bynum, second. Clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call. Stites?
Aye.
Pacheco?
Aye.
Howard?
Aye.
Bynum?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
The vote is 5-0. Motion carries.
All right, thank you all so much. We have no more business, and so is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Howard, second.
Okay, clerk, can we get the roll?
Can I get clarification on who made the motion?
I think
I heard
Bynum made the
Stites and
motion.
Bynum. Okay,
Yes.
fine.
Just pick one.
Got it. Roll call. Stites?
Aye.
Pacheco?
Aye.
Howard?
Aye.
Bynum?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
The vote is 5-0. Motion carries.
All right, thank you all so much. Appreciate all the hard work. Have a good night.
Can I also add now that the meeting's over,